Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast. I'm Kamran.
And I'm Billy.
Billy, what would you say we do here?
Well, we like to dig deep into a bunch of books and shows and movies that we love.
In excruciating detail, right?
In excruciating detail. And we like to talk about things that we like about them, what they make us think, and what we learn from them. And a lot of times we're going to go off topic, but we're going to bring it back in. Basically, it is just two guys hanging out talking about their favorite stuff. And it's not meant to be a replacement for anything. It's meant to be a companion to anything that we're talking about, any shows, any movies, any books that we're talking about. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show with us.
One final note before we begin the episode. If you would like to support our show, we have a Patreon set up. You can find the link at horsefrogproductions.com. You can also email us with any feedback at contact@horsefrogproductions.com. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description. Today, we are reviewing episode 7 of The Boys, the Amazon Prime show. As we traditionally do before episodes of this show, we give a warning. This show is intended for a mature audience and has extreme violence and some scenes of sexual misconduct. If these topics upset you, then we do not recommend you continue listening. I need to make a couple of corrections and additions to some previous episodes that we've published. I need to correct a past wrong that took place during episode 4. I did not do my due diligence and identify whether the music video Kamiko was watching was K-pop or J-pop. I intend to correct that.
I did not mean to create this issue.
Well, I mean, you exposed an outright bias that needed to be dealt with. All right.
Okay.
So
All right.
I'm going to correct that now. I did a little research.
Right.
The band is a Japanese band named Boys and Men.
I love that.
And the name of the song is Ho Wo Agero. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I watched it.
There we go.
Pretty jazzy, high beat, high energy.
It kind of almost reminds me of an anime, but live action.
I kind of get a One Piece feel to it. That's kind of a pirate ship anime.
Yeah, I know that one.
All right. Episode 5. I mentioned a cognitive bias where people are afraid to speak up in a group of people because they want to avoid conflict. This was in the context of people not speaking up in a corporate environment. I thought it was the bandwagon effect. It is, in fact, groupthink. The bandwagon effect is when people jump on board something because everyone else is doing it.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
This isn't a correction so much as an additional thought to something I mentioned in episode 5. We were talking about Idris Elba.
If this spurred me, I didn't realize this either. Because I'm going to tell you. You say what you're going to say, then I will jump in.
We were talking about Idris Elba, and I mentioned that I liked everything I had seen him in, and I mentioned he's probably one of my favorite actors. And I forgot he was in the abomination that is Cats, the live-action Disney rendition.
I forgot that they did that. I'll tell you, I have had I don't know if most people would call it an honor, but as a younger man in my 20s, a family friend of mine took me to go see the Broadway production of Cats, like the Betty Buckley version, that was the big deal in the Dallas Fair Park Music Hall. And I hated it. I'm not a Broadway guy, dude. I'm not a musical guy. I have a hard time with it.
What about something like Phantom of the Opera? Do you think you dig that?
See, I am told by the woman I'm seeing, she loves that kind of stuff. And I guess I should give it, I need to be fair and give it a shot. So I guess she has me on record saying I will at least attempt to watch it with her. I'll let you know.
Okay. Because what I'll tell you is this. I do not like musicals at all.
Right.
But
except South Park.
Well, yeah. And that gets to be a little much at times too.
It does.
But
it does.
As a kid, the Phantom of the Opera really captured my imagination. I was obsessed with the Andrew Lloyd Webber version of it. And we were living in Los Angeles. I went on a school field trip one time to the opera house, and I didn't know this, but my parents bought tickets to the Phantom of the Opera. It was traveling to Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
And I think I was in the 3rd grade. My brother was in kindergarten. They told us we were going to a wedding. They didn't tell us we were going to the opera. And we went and we saw it. It was awesome.
Oh, that's cool, dude.
And this was as a kid. But even now, I still like the story.
I've always loved the story because I'm a huge horror buff. I love horror movies. I've always been fascinated even with the old silent ones. And, Lon Chaney is, of course, the original Phantom of the Opera from the 20 or 30. It's still silent, though. And that's actually a really good movie. the fact that the things he did to his face with those appliances, is still amazing to this day. I mean, it's great stuff.
Yeah, Idris Elba. I just wanted people to know that I have not seen Cats, so that was not factored into the movies that I loved him in. I just wanted everybody to know that.
I love Idris Elba, but I can guarantee you I will not like Cats, regardless of the fact that the amazing Idris Elba is in it.
Yeah.
I don't think he can save that.
I did look up some pictures to see what his character looked like, and he did look cooler than all the other ones.
I'm sure he did.
He was kind of a scrapper alley cat looking guy.
So he looked bad. He looked awesome.
Yeah, he did.
He's Idris Elba. What do you want? Dude, that guy's awesome.
All right, on to the episode.
All right.
It's Christmas time. This takes place 8 years ago. Vought is throwing a party. Maeve is walking through the party, and all the non-suit personnel are turning around and watching her walk by. Translucent is wearing a Santa outfit, but he's invisible.
Do you find that vaguely unsettling, the hollow Santa?
Yeah.
It is kind of unsettling to me too.
He had the beard on and everything. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Madeline is talking with the Deep. I'd like to point out that everyone else is wearing kind of muted colors, and she has a bright red dress on. Yeah. I'm not sure why she was the only one with.
And they are engrossed deeply in their conversation. Like, she seems to really be almost buttering him up in this situation.
Yeah, he might have been a fresher soup at this time, prior to all of his transgressions and shenanigans that she's had to deal with, and maybe there was a bright future at this time.
Before he was just the fish guy?
It's a possibility. Yep. They take a picture together, and then Madeline tells him to take another one. Butcher is there at the bar. He's getting a beer. He's looking like a gentleman. This reminded me of the character that he played in the movie Red. Do you remember that? Have you seen that?
Red? I love Red. He's in Red?
Yeah, he was the agent that was chasing them down.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forget he's the agent.
And he looks just like him, man. Got a suit on. He's looking sharp.
He's awesome in that. That's one of my favorite scenes in the world, is Bruce Willis getting out of that car, guns blazing as it's spinning. Isn't that one of the greatest shots?
It's pretty good, yeah.
It's a great shot, dude. I love Red. I forgot he's in that too, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, Carl Urban wasn't even really a bad guy in that. He was just a guy doing his job.
He was just hard.
Yeah.
He's a hardcore dude, man. He was like the younger version of Bruce before Bruce got super hard. So he's hard. Bruce is just super hard.
Right. He's got the wisdom and the experience. Right.
The dirty fighting wisdom too. It comes with wisdom.
Yeah.
It's not dirty if you're fighting, by the way.
Yeah. Butcher is there with Becca. They're talking for a bit. He tells her the drinks are free, but the food is terrible. It was like ahi hors d'oeuvres or something like that. Raw. She says she just has to shake a few more hands and lovingly asks him to take it easy on the drinks. She needs him on his A game. They look really happy together.
They look great together.
Homelander interrupts, saying Merry Christmas, and he walks down the stairs that they're standing on to stand next to them. He greets Becca by name and recites her title, New Senior Director, Digital Marketing. She asks how he knew, and he says he has his sources, and it's also on her name tag. She seems a little nervous being in his presence, but it's kind of like a flattered way, like she's in the presence of greatness.
Yeah, it's not a scared thing. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Homelander.
Yeah.
He's talking, he called my name kind of thing too, even. I mean, so.
Oh yeah, he knew who I was. Yeah.
That's a special thing. Yeah.
She introduces Butcher to Homelander. They shake hands. Homelander asks Becca if she handled his takeover. She confirms she did and asks if he saw it. He says he did and that he loves it. She is pleased by this and thanks him. He thanks her back. Butcher asks what she took over. Becca tells him Vought's Twitter account. Homelander tells Butcher that his brilliant wife did all the work, took all the photos, posted all the messages. It was exceptional. Butcher thinks it's a bit deceptive, but his wife jumps in saying that's what they do because Homelander is out there saving lives. And this point about these Twitter accounts, there's so many quote unquote important people on Twitter that it's just a marketing team pushing out sanitized messages. And this is especially prevalent in politics. It's not even the person themselves in a lot of cases.
Right. And I that's kind of what I've assumed. And for me, what's weird is I know nothing about that stuff at all. And so, but even I have always kind of realized that it's got to be a team. Nobody can be, you can't, I mean, that's a lot of time people dedicate to putting stuff on these media platforms.
Yeah.
I actually have a young lady that lives in my complex, apparently that she's some kind of influencer. She's on like Snapchat or Instagram or
Probably
something. I've seen her
Instagram.
thing on her
Hmm.
car.
Yeah.
She's like got 10,000 followers or something like that. I don't know what the deal is with that either.
I'm not sure how that rates in the pantheon of a good number of followers, but when you get enough,
Right?
brands will come to you to promote whatever uh, you have, right? Because you have eyeballs.
Well, they can come with us. I'll happily sign on the line.
What do
I'm not hating. I'm not hating.
you say that until the wrong one comes?
Just make it a fact. Just right. Do we want to get rocket fuel malt liquor? Sorry. So I apologize for that one.
All right.
So no rocket fuel for you then?
I may be willing to talk to them. Let's just put it that way.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Homelander surprisingly doesn't take offense to Butcher's comment. He says Butcher is right. It's a little dishonest, but he's all thumbs when it comes to that kind of stuff. So he leaves it to the experts. And I guess he's not a tech bro.
Yeah. Is that the new PC term for nerd?
I don't. Okay, so I've heard it bandied about.
I have not. So it was my first time to see it.
I had an idea of what it was, but I didn't actually know the exact definition. So I looked up the exact definition.
Okay.
It is a noun, a U.S.-born, college-educated, Patagonia-clad male whose entry-level salary at one of the FAANG companies was at least $125,000 and who frequently insists that his female coworkers give him high fives.
Who is FAANG?
That's Facebook, Amazon, Apple. I forget what the N is, and then Google.
So this is actually scarier than Spectre.
If they all were working together, yes, it is scarier than Spectre.
Okay, okay, copy that.
The final part of this is typically works in product management or marketing. Had he been born 10 years earlier, he would have been a finance bro instead.
A finance. Okay, I appreciate that hard work, brother.
And I imagine the finance bros are the gentlemen that we can thank for 2008 housing crisis.
Right. Copy that. Yeah. Okay. It's almost more of an insult in a way. Is that insulting? I mean, beside the fact the money's good, I would take that kind of money. But
wait, you talking about the finance bro or the tech bro? Which one?
The tech bro.
I don't know. It seems kind of reductive to me. Honestly, I think they've started to diversify the people that they're hiring now. There may have been a time where it was predominantly males that were being recruited there, but I think they have more of a focus on getting women into some of these roles now.
Well, I get that too, but I'm not going to cover the disparities because of the fact of the choice of education things.
Yeah, certain people have proclivities to going towards certain things. That's true. Right. Yeah.
If you pick the wrong interest in college, it's still great that you went to college, but it may not serve you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't go to school for being an accountant or a programmer or something like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Homelander tells Becca he would like to talk to her about quarterbacking the rest of his social media. She asks if he's serious, and he says, absolutely. My dad always said, surround yourself with people smarter than you. Given his dad was fake, I have to think that someone at Vought took this from Andrew Carnegie.
I think so. Especially after seeing what you have here, I think exactly is correct.
The exact quote is, Andrew Carnegie famously suggested his epitaph should read, here lies a man who was able to surround himself with men far cleverer than himself. This is the oldest reference I have to this quote. I mean, heck, maybe Marcus Aurelius wrote something like that, But
you could never tell. I mean, I've heard variants of this in movies, and it's like I've heard a guy say, it's like I just think about what somebody smarter than me would do, and then do that, or some kind of variant on a theme.
Yeah. Becca seems super excited about this development. Homelander notices Maeve is waving him over. He refers to her as his better half, and this was 8 years ago.
I forget it's been that long back.
Yeah, so I think Maeve got together with Elena after her and Homelander ended their relationship. Likely this is why she was afraid of making the relationship public, because we know how Homelander is. He's saying, I can't bear the thought of you being with anybody else.
Yeah.
She's also probably worried about public perception as well, right? Not sure which is weighing heavier on the scales for her, whether it's the public perception or the fear of Homelander.
I get that. And I also have another question. Her name is Queen
Mm-hmm.
Maeve. Now Diana for Wonder Woman from DC. She's actually from like the Amazon Isle. She's not technically Amazonian, but she's from there.
Right.
Is Queen Maeve? I haven't looked deep enough. I don't know if you have either. I don't know. Is she really from one of these weird? Like, is there an alternate race like this here, or is this just she just chose this name out of a hat because she was a female and it just kind of sounded cool?
Given what I know about Vought, it was entirely invented.
Think so too, but I was just kind of curious what your thoughts were on that.
We might have to do a little looking into that and see what the origins of it are.
I'll take a look into that.
Mm-hmm.
Copy that.
Yep. Homelander, like us, loves Butcher's accent. After he walks away, Butcher asks Becca, how the does he walk around in that sweaty wetsuit all day long, balls mashed up against his leg like pancakes?
Oh my word.
Oh man.
That is such a beastly visual image painted there, isn't it?
Yeah. Becca shushes him, telling him he has promised to behave. Butcher finally gets her to agree to leave the party. Back to present day, Butcher is sitting in a car. It's nighttime. We see he has followed Huey and Starlight. They have arrived at a hotel via taxi. Inside the hotel, Huey and Starlight get it on. They do the business. As she finishes, her eyes light up.
So some sort of tanning sunglasses might be in order.
Well, I was going to say, I'm surprised Huey, he didn't look scared, especially after that Ice Princess story that Seth told in the sharing circle.
That's such a dreadful, horrifying story.
It is, but I mean, I would be terrified. I don't know. You say that, but he's probably just being a guy. He's one single thought on his mind at that point in time. But either way, in the morning, they are cuddling, and Starlight says, "This is all really nice, but why didn't Huey take her to his place?"
And she's open about the butt. She's not trying to. I mean, she's very. I like the way that she brings that up because she's like, but. Mm-hmm. I mean, she draws it, and she does so in a very funny way. I think it's very intentionally funny.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Huey tells her, sure, his dad could have made her some post-coitus pizza rolls, and this was slightly less humiliating than that. She says, yeah, all right. And this is not the strongest excuse we've seen from Huey. He's come up with some real bangers. It's okay.
He has come up with some really sharp stuff on the fly. This one's pretty weak, but I think a lot of it is just so much is just that I think he's forgetting his cover story. He's kind of blending what's not. Because I think he's so much into her, obviously.
Yeah. Once you get to a certain point with the lies, it becomes more difficult to remember everything. And then, he's also distracted. And Huey doesn't buy her response. He asks her if she's okay and what's going on. She tells him she's never seen his place before or his job. He's kind of a mystery to her. Huey says, that's good, right? And then Starlight tells Huey about her father. She says, you got to understand that my dad was nothing but corny jokes and expensive gifts until he was gone, and all the money along with him. I know that's not you. I need to know that the hotel is a nice thing and not a red flag thing. A quick thought here. I kind of went deep on Huey's mother not being in the picture. On multiple occasions, I mentioned that. But it never occurred to me to even think about where her father was.
I feel the same way because Mom is so opposite of Simon Pegg's character, Huey's dad, where, he is so, there are limitations. I'm not going to try and push against the limitations. Starlight's mom even though she's an enormous pain in the butt, like an Ashley Jr., she at least is a motivator. And she at least, seems, like she carried the load of both parents almost, and almost happily so until she wants to lord it over her daughter. Mm-hmm. Like all the stuff I went through for you, so you need to be famous for me. Kind of, other than that stuff, Starlight's mom's at least okay for the most part, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you think it's more related to the fact that the mom seemed more involved in her life, as opposed to Huey's kind of absentee. I mean, he was not really absentee, but just kind of checked out dad.
No, yeah. Them sitting together, like Huey talks about, just like living dead, just vegging out on television and eating together and never really talking. That's not really living much. It's not getting to know people you're with even. I mean, you could at least take the time to get to know somebody if you're sitting with them.
Right. Gotcha.
That might, but that might be the. I don't know why I think about those two. It is. It's a weird. It's a parallel that I find kind of strange because this episode has multiple parallels that I point out
Okay.
that are very similar situations. You got with like the Huey and his parent versus Starlight and her parent,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get to some other parallels later. I'll bring those out.
Okay. Huey semi comes clean with her. He's saying he quit his job and apologizes for not telling her. He says that after his girlfriend died, programming other people's remotes felt kind of pointless. He also tells her she can meet his dad, but she'll regret asking that. And she says, "So everything's okay?" Huey looks at her for a while, then lies and says, "It's great. No red flags."
Mm-hmm.
Homelander is in the control room at Vought. He has the pictures Mesmer gave him of Butcher and company pulled up on the wall monitors. He is pacing and looking at them. After he passes them all, he fixates on the one with Butcher's picture. He remembers him from the race when the crowd was looking at the track and Butcher was the only one facing him. He ties it to the memory of meeting him at the Vought Christmas party 8 years ago.
I love that scene where it shows that the racetrack flashback. I don't know why that's more powerful because of him standing against the crowd when the whole crowd is looking one way and he's not. I think that's why that looks so much more potent in that scene.
To me, it's reminiscent of the scene where Chaz Palminteri is putting together Kaiser Soze. All the pieces of information come. It's not as well done as that, and the stakes aren't as high as that.
But it's a brilliant reference. I love your sub reference, by the way. Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not going to ruin it in case you haven't seen The Usual Suspects. Granted, the movie is 30 years old at this point. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's awesome.
You need to see it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll discuss it sometime in the future. But what a fantastic introduction to Bryan Singer, the X-Men director.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. It's great.
Fantastic, absolutely.
Benicio del Toro, when they're all in the jail, man.
Benicio is amazing in that movie. That's the first time I ever saw him.
Yeah, I think that's the first movie I remember him from. Yeah,
they're all so good together. My favorite in that one was Gabriel Byrne because Gabriel Byrne is the hard guy in Coen Brothers Miller's Crossing, which is their 20s. I love Miller's Crossing, and I love Gabriel.
I watched that because you recommended it to me.
Oh, did you like it?
I did. Loved it.
It's a great movie. I love that movie, dude. And there's so many great actors in that movie, but man, Gabriel Byrne is so hard in that movie. Oh my goodness, he's wonderful.
That was the Irish Mob, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes, Irish versus the Italians. Okay. Yeah.
What was the one with Paul Newman and Tom Hanks?
Glory.
No. It's some
kind of road.
Road to Perdition.
Road to Perdition.
That movie. Did you know Paul Newman's son in that was Daniel Craig?
No way. Really?
Way. Yeah. You go back and watch that. This was before he was James Bond, and he is another person in that movie. He looks sickly, sallow, very pale, less muscular, and he's a different person entirely.
A mutual friend of ours through the late great Fry's Electronics, one of the store managers had told me to watch a movie, and it's what got Craig. It was supposedly what got Craig the Bond role. It was Layer Cake. Have you seen that?
Oh, I love that movie.
That's a fantastic.
That's
movie.
A Matthew Vaughn movie.
Is that Vaughn? Okay.
Mm-hmm. He did Kick-Ass and he did Kingsman.
I didn't realize that he and Guy Ritchie did so much stuff together.
I did not know that they did stuff together.
Matthew Vaughn is like the producer or something on Snatch because I just watched Snatch the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Vaughn in there. So, because I love the Kingsman. Oh, my word. I love the Kingsman.
The first one was good. The other two, I was not as into.
I like the second one. The third one was definitely not as great.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the first two a lot. I enjoyed the first one in particular.
The church scene in the first one.
Dude, that's one of the greatest fight scenes of all times, is it not?
It's incredible. I remember watching that in the theater, and my mouth was hanging open. I can
imagine.
That is definitely one of the top 10 fight scenes ever filmed for me personally.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost up there with the hallway scene. You've seen Old Boy, right?
It's been a long time. That's so slow.
It is a slow movie, but the fight scene though, the hallway scene.
No, I'm
really
talking
great,
about the fight scene in the hallway was kind of slow because it's very realistic compared to
right. It's not stylized.
Some of we have gone way. We need to reel it back. I want to talk about this stuff, but we need to stay on target. So let's reel it back. We'll come back to this other stuff at another time.
Wow.
The Deep is being shown his apartment in Sandusky, Ohio. Compared to the luxury he's used to at headquarters, this room is quite the downgrade.
It's
It looks like a furnished apartment.
But it's nice.
Yeah.
It's actually quite bright and
I would say
nice.
it's a step above a hotel.
Yes.
More like a corporate furnished apartment.
A courtyard, like a Marriott courtyard.
Yeah,
It's like
something like
one of
that.
those kind of like long stays.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The man from the local office is telling him about the local activities. He hands him a card. The Deep asks what it is, and the man tells him it's his per diem. He gets $75 a day. There's a grocery store down the street. The Deep asks, to make my own food? The man tells him there's a Dairy Queen too. And the Deep's like blizzards and stuff? And the man says, you betcha.
Now, I'm, of course, being a Texan, will interject about DQ and being in a small Texas town.
Mhm.
Dude, this place here is ridiculous with the DQ. It is the most popular fast food joint in this town. So I got 2 of them here.
Mhm.
And I mean, it doesn't matter what time of the day I go there and drive by there. They always have a line. It's amazing in these small towns how DQ is so popular. I love it.
You must not have a Chick-fil-A there, huh?
They're also good. I do have a Chick-fil-A
Is
here.
it as busy as the Dairy Queens?
It stays busy, but the problem with from my point of view, the Chick-fil-A is a little bit further away. Not that there's anything far away in my town. That's still only 2 miles versus, half a mile.
Mhm.
That's the big difference. I'm just lazy.
Yeah.
But you'll see people go there a lot because they have ice cream there. And this is the time of the year, of course, when it's on nice and hot. So people go there a lot of the times through the drive-through just to get an ice cream or something like that. So it's popular for burgers and ice cream.
Yeah.
So that you have the double. That's the big thing there.
That's like one of the few places you can go and get a malt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they just built a Baskin Robbins in this town. I was so hyper excited about it. They did not know how to make a malt at the ice cream shop. Dairy Queen is still the best ice cream shop in this town, even though I have a Baskin Robbins here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So shame on you, Baskin Robbins.
I got to stay away from milkshakes, man. That is one of the most calorically dense foods you can have.
That's why I put on so much weight. So I've been avoiding it.
It's been years since I had one because of that reason. But I miss them. Really miss them. Yeah. All right. The Deep asks, well, what about my crime itinerary?
What about my crime itinerary?
Yeah, I think the best thing is to just get out there and put some points on the board. The man tells him, not much crime in Sandusky. I mean, we're not a shithole like Akron. And he starts laughing. And I did see in the X-ray notes, one of the producers was from Ohio. So he thought it would be fun to make the Deep go to Ohio. So that's the big joke here.
Is that kind of like, the writer of Zombieland being from Garland, right? Isn't that kind of why, Zombieland starts in Garland?
Yeah, probably. Put a little personal touch on it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those kind of little things, but that's the movie starts off in Garland. I always like to joke about, you might think that this is the end of the world, but this is just Garland on a Saturday night. I love that. It's great.
He does tell the Deep that if something comes up, they'll call. And the Deep asks, you'll call? And the man assures him that they will, then leaves. The song I'm All Out of Love starts playing. The Deep is checking out the apartment. He sits on the mattress, feels it, and then he sits down at the dining table. He opens his laptop. He opens a Word document. The title reads, Deeper, a memoir.
Oh my gosh.
There's nothing else in the document. And he sits there with his head in his hands and he can't think of anything to write.
And what's funny, we were just talking about the fact that this episode doesn't have much funny stuff about it, but we cut right to the comic relief almost immediately. It's like, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, the Deep is basically the only comic relief in this episode, I think, if I remember correctly. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. A-Train is at the track. He's throwing up in a trash can because he's been training so hard. His brother, Nathan, comes over and gets him, then hands him a shaker. A-Train tells him to get out of here with that. He refuses it, and his brother tells him he needs 3,000 calories an hour or he'll pass out. I hadn't put it together that for all his activity, he's burning through that many calories. That's crazy.
See, Flash doesn't suffer from that necessity.
Because he has what is the energy that he draws from?
Yeah, he's linked to that. He's linked to super speed, period. He is super speed incarnate, basically.
So super speed is like
he draws from the speed. It's like the speed force. It's like it's like a Warren.
Okay. Yeah. Well, non-Malice then people aren't going to understand that reference.
Yeah, sorry.
It's like what would be a good way an alternate dimension of energy? Would that be a good way to describe it?
I think that's probably it. Yeah. Apparently he feeds off of that somehow, but he needs 0 calories to feed and he will never run out of energy.
Okay.
He can run ad infinitum,
I was just about to say he could drink some milkshakes, but milkshakes and then running, it's a bad idea.
Oh my word! Especially 3,000 calories.
Oh man,
That's
like
more than you eat in a day.
Well,
it's supposed to be more than you should be eating 2,000
it
calories.
depends on your level of activity.
Yeah, mine's pretty slag.
It depends. I mean, your resting metabolic rate probably is at least 2,000 calories a day, right? So if you start getting activity for maintenance, you'd be at probably 2,600.
You are correct. You would need something extra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Copy that.
A-Train says, I can't do this shit, man. Nathan tells him, tough. You heard the doc. Your heart is getting bigger. Balls are getting smaller. Your bone densities for that compound V is killing you. A-Train tells Nathan to not even say it out loud. He doesn't know about it.
Especially with the bone density thing. Think about that. If he slips or trips going at high speed, dude, take out a bunch right there. Well, I know that we're jumping the gun too. So
I hadn't put it together until you just said it. But let's put a pin in that till later in this episode.
Okay, copy that. It's pinned.
Nathan says he doesn't want to know. A-Train is done. No more around. A-Train is exasperated. He asks if Nathan has seen him the last time he was out there. Sioux City has a faster runner than him. Nathan tells him then he should stop going to club openings and commercial shoots. No more of that. They will train, get back to the basics. A-Train says no one gets back at his age. I have a point here that Rocky did like 5 times.
5 times, right? Yeah. I don't know if there's much truth to that, but I'm not a big Rocky guy, but he did do it 5 times. That is correct.
I mean, a little tongue in cheek. I think the later ones, is kind of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but he says he's going to be a freak show like Ben Johnson racing against horses. I did not get this reference. I did a little research here.
I did read your article.
And this is a train wreck. I recommend you look up Ben Johnson's Wikipedia article and read through it. I'm going to give some highlights here. Okay.
Yeah, it was absolutely fascinating, folks. It really was. I'm not into sports or anything whatsoever, but this is absolutely fascinating. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. During the 1987 and 88 track season, he held the title of the world's fastest man, breaking both the 100-meter and the 60-meter indoor world records. On September 24th, 1988, Johnson won the 100 meters final at the Summer Olympics in Seoul, lowering his own world record to 9.79 seconds. He was the first Canadian sprinter since Percy Williams in 1928 to win the 100 meters at the Olympics. He was originally from Jamaica. I just thought I might mention that. And I thought that was interesting because Usain Bolt is also from Jamaica. And Jamaica, I think, has a history of having very strong track team.
That cat Bolt is... as much as, like I said, I'm not a big sports guy, but I will watch Olympics because I do enjoy some track, and because that's such just a dead-on competition. There's no, no timeouts or anything like that. It's just whoever's fastest. And when that guy's on the field, dude, he is something to watch. But he's just going to win.
Yeah,
he's usually so far out in the front. It freaks me out watching that dude run. He's amazing.
Yeah, him and Michael Phelps, their body is it's almost designed for that. They're the 0.01% of genetics, right, in that task. And it's cool that they found the thing that genetic potential was able to maximize. It's just it's nice to see.
It's cool. It is really cool.
The article goes on. However, Park John Say, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, of the Olympic Doping Control Center found that Johnson's urine sample contained stanozolol, and he was disqualified 3 days after the race. He later admitted to having used steroids when he ran his 1987 world record, which caused the IAAF to rescind that record as well. Johnson and Coach Francis complained that they used performance-enhancing agents in order to remain on equal footing with the other top athletes. In testimony before the Dublin inquiry into drug use in sport, Francis charged that Johnson was only one of many cheaters, and he just happened to get caught. Often dubbed the dirtiest race in history, the 1988 100-meter final had only 2 out of a total of 8 runners who remained clean throughout their careers. These 2 were Calvin Smith and Robson da Silva.
Well, thank you, you 2 guys, for at least having some integrity. Thanks, Calvin Smith and Robson da Silva. We appreciate that.
In one of our earlier episodes, I made a mention of sometimes people get swept along. They don't see the alternative path forward, right?
Right.
And over the years, we've certainly gained a lot more visibility into this issue with performance-enhancing drugs. It is rampant.
I was going to say, is this pre the Lance?
Yes, because this is in the 80s, and then Lance Armstrong was in the 2000s, right?
Lance Armstrong, 2000. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
but
Yeah, so
most of those athletes were also doping.
they were doing that weird thing, which was that blood doping, which is not even really. It's something about just giving like transfusions to yourself, which is like bizarre, I think. But
They
I
were
mean,
doing a
whatever.
ton of stuff.
I know it. It's crazy the things those guys do.
There's a documentary called Icarus on Netflix. Have you seen that?
I have not.
This reporter, he's a cyclist. He finds the Russian coach that guides the athletes on doping, and he gets him to give him a protocol, and he films the whole thing. It's crazy, man.
Huh.
The guy
okay.
just willingly tells him all the secrets and everything, how they were cheating and all this other stuff. But
All right.
it's almost like you just need to have an open one that's like, hey, do whatever. And then a natural one with the stringent testing, because they're going to do it regardless.
Yeah.
The real bad thing about it is the people that try to stay natural, they are outclassed, because you literally would have to be some superhuman specimen to naturally compete with these enhanced people.
Right.
Okay, so moving on with this article, just a couple more points, and then we'll move on with the episode. Johnson's coach, Charlie Francis, a vocal critic of the IOC testing procedures, he's the author of a book called Speed Trap, which features Johnson heavily. In the book, he freely admits that his athletes were taking anabolic steroids, as he claims all top athletes at the time were, and also claims that Johnson could not possibly have tested positive for that particular steroid, since he actually preferred another steroid named Furazabol. He thought,
I love that.
Johnson thought,
Stanozol.
yeah, these names, man. Yeah. Johnson thought that stanozolol had made his body feel tight. The numerous athletes using performance-enhancing drugs at the time understood how long before a race and possible drug tests they should stop using the drugs. Johnson later claimed that Andre A. Jackson, Lewis's Santa Monica track club teammate, who was inside the drug testing room in Seoul, may have placed the stanozolol in one of the beers Johnson drank in order to make urine for his test. And then the final note here. In 1998, Johnson appeared in a charity race in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, where he raced against a thoroughbred racehorse, a harness racing horse, and a stock car. He finished third in the race. So this is the exact reference.
Doesn't this sound like some crazy stuff out of the like 40s or 50s or even earlier? Not something out of 1998, some guy racing against those. I mean, I know it's a charity race, but I mean, did they think that guy was honestly going to beat these other things? I guess they did.
It's an exhibition, probably, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And then Prince Edward Island, I don't know where that is. Is that in Jamaica? Or I guess we'll have to look that up and see. But yeah, either way, that's what the reference was about. In the article, I do recommend you read it, because this guy, he trained like Omar Gaddafi's son because he was going to be a soccer player in the EU or something. I mean, it's just crazy stuff.
Right. Prince Edward is actually off of the eastern Canada's maritime provinces. It's off of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So it's in by Canada.
Okay, so that's a northern island, not a tropical island. Okay,
yeah, it'll be off the coast of North America. They're on the right side.
That should have been immediately
Maine and all that stuff.
Immediately obvious to me. Prince Edward Island.
I guess so. I don't.
Well, don't they have Commonwealth countries? And never mind. We're going down a rabbit hole. Forget it. Okay.
Right. Stay on target.
Nathan tells him, "At least you'll still be breathing." Excellent point. Right. A-Train then gets a message on his phone. He tells Nathan he has to go. This scene right here is super intense. A lot of detail. A lot of things come together right here.
Yeah. Very, very intense.
Mm-hmm. A-Train walks into the command room at Vought. He walks in, and he's the last to arrive. The doors close behind him.
Doesn't that always kind of sound like some vault or some nuclear fallout extreme shelter or something? Like I've always imagined that's a very final sounding closing every time that door closes.
Yeah, I have mentioned before the sound of the thud as it shuts. It is very reminiscent of the NORAD doors closing in whatever movie it is.
Right.
Homelander walks up behind him, patting him on the back, saying, "I missed you guys. Just wanted to see your smiling faces." He tells A-Train to sit down, and then he says, "Truth be known, I felt like we were overdue a little heart-to-heart, a rap session, maybe a little tough love." Maeve scoffs and asks, "What's that supposed to mean?" Homelander says, "It means that lately, some of you have been, a little out of sorts, erratic. He looks at Starlight when he says this, then continues, unreliable, downright sloppy. He points at Black Noir and says, not you, Noir, you've been great. And of course, Black Noir has no response.
But I'm going to say something here because this is not the first time we've talked about there's some times that Noir does things like when he's reaching for the canapes when they're passing by at the, on the hors d'oeuvre tray. It's like, we've talked about that. What's he going to do with it? And they kind of snub him. Then it's kind of this thing here. It's like, does he look like he's about to say something? Like he could almost say something, but they cut him off. They never allow the guy. It's like, it's shut up. It's Black Noir. He's not going to say anything. I never know how to read him because when they show him, I'm like, oh, maybe he is about to say something, even though I've seen it before. It's like he has that look. There's something about you. My mind paints that there's no look. He has no look. He's got a black face mask. You can't see.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I can feel this guy with his finger in the air, like going to say something, and they cut him off.
Yeah. I want to. I'm torn. I don't know if I want to see what's under there because that's part of the mystery of it.
There is, and like I told you, the comic book I've heard. I know Black Noir's story from the comic, but the comic is different.
Okay.
I've covered some differences, but I'll cover some more differences. I'll actually bring something up from the comic later on.
Okay. Homelander goes on, but the rest of you, he clicks his tongue. It's fair to say that I am disappointed. Got to keep your eye on the ball, guys. The enemies are storming the gates. I mean, we're not even the 7 anymore. We're down to 5. Right. We're dropping like flies. But at least now I know why. He takes a remote and points it at one of the monitors on the wall. He clicks a button. A picture of Huey shows up on the screen. Starlight is really confused. She says, Is this a joke? Why is Huey up there?
Man, my heart kind of sinks with her on that. I kind of feel for her on that moment. Can you imagine how scared she must be at that moment?
I don't think she's scared yet. I think she is confused because she just
sometimes when I'm confused, I kind of get that little freaked out. Like it's the predecessor to being scared.
I have to think that the stomach feeling, the drop in the stomach, like, like I messed up or something. Right. That doesn't come till you realize like the anxiety hits, right? I don't think she has processed it to the point where that has hit yet, but it's coming very soon.
It's quickly.
Yeah, but I think she's just saying, is this a joke? Why is Huey up there? She hasn't put it together yet. Right. That it's a problem.
Right.
Yeah. Maeve says she doesn't understand and asks who Huey is. Homelander says, this guy is Hugh Campbell. He and Starlight are going steady. He's also one of the guys who killed Translucent. Starlight is surprised by this. She says, wait, what? Now that right there is probably where she's starting to have the stomach drop, right? It's like,
that would be the scary. You're right.
Homelander keeps going, as well as blackmailing Mesmer, Ezekiel, Popclaw, and God knows who else. A-Train leans forward, repeating Popclaw's name in surprise. Starlight is saying, no, this is insane. Homelander turns to her, his tone indicating that he has little patience, and says, Starlight, sticks and stones won't break my bones, but words. And he puts his hand over his heart. I like this twist on the saying,
I do too. And can I just say how much I like, again, I've always been amazed at how well these actors have acted. I mean, that the young lady that plays Starlight, her name's Erin Moriarty, and she really has that. I mean, she genuinely looks really horrified. I mean, these people sell these roles so good on these shows. I'm always blown away. I'm blown away by that.
Yeah,
it's also real. So good.
Homelander in particular in this episode, really. I mean, Starlight's doing a good job, but Homelander throughout this episode, it's really riveting watching what's going on. Starlight says, no, sir, I'm sorry, I wasn't. It's just, he's not, I mean, why would he do that? She's kind of tongue-tied. Homelander says, good question. A-Train, over to you. A-Train is confused and asks, what? He sighs, he says, oh boy, that little egg of yours is still scrambled, huh?
Right.
He takes the remote and points at another monitor. This one zooms out the picture with Huey showing that it is in the same room that they're in now, and A-Train is shaking hands with Huey. Homelander asks, how about now? Homelander has this really condescending way of talking to the other supes. Think of the language that he uses when speaking to the Deep and A-Train. My little guppy, that little egg of yours.
Right. He behind closed doors, this guy has been, we've talked about how much he is really quite the super bully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I recently wrote down a quote that I thought was really good. It said, the language we use matters a lot because the way we say things is how we think things.
I like that.
Yeah, and if you apply that to Homelander, you can really see how he thinks about virtually everybody around him.
Yeah, mud people.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked, Translucent has said the same thing. We're bags of blood and blood and meat or something like that.
Bags of blood and meat. Yeah.
Bags of blood and meat. So that's kind of how they all see us, apparently, for the most part.
A-Train looks at the picture and says, oh, I know this guy. Starlight is beginning to put things together. You can see on her face she is processing all the information. Homelander says, you did smash through his girlfriend, so I should hope so.
Right?
A-Train says, I remember now. I've seen him outside of Popclaw's place. He was all in my face.
I love that. All in his face.
Yeah.
They bumped into each other and Huey was terrified. But
well, I don't know that Huey was terrified. He was indignant because he did not recognize him.
Oh, that is true.
And they had just shaken hands the day before, I want to say.
Yeah. Right. That's true.
A-Train aggressively points out at Starlight and yells, you're this guy? Starlight jumps when he starts yelling at her. She says, okay, slow down. I don't know what's going on, but Huey is not capable of anything close to this. Homelander agrees, saying, well, that is true, actually. That's very true. He is just a man, and he pauses to laugh. By the looks of it, not much of one. But hear me out. What if he was helped? Say someone, I don't know, got him in to see Ezekiel and got rid of the Deep. Starlight stands up saying, whoa, 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 wow. Whoa, hold on. She puts her hands up, not really in an aggressive way. It's more of a passive kind of like,
right.
And then Homelander,
like you're misunderstanding this completely, kind of that, like you know, that almost like you would surrender to a cop.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, surrender to a cop. Excellent. Yeah. Homelander very aggressively says, keep those hands down by your sides, Missy. His eyes begin glowing, and we can hear the hum of his restrained power. It's super intimidating. Can you imagine how terrified you'd be?
I have stared down the barrel of a gun. It's got to be about that scary.
Was that when you were at a gas station one time?
No, I was actually carjacked and had I lost my car in 2017, 2018.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that. That's right. Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a pretty scary feeling.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Because it could be the last thing you see.
Somebody's crazy. We can see Maeve and A-Train are also scared. Starlight puts her hands down. Homelander tells Starlight to sit down. Now this part, Black Noir is looking at her, and he cocks his head to the side as if he's gauging his next move in case things get serious. It's like he's looking at his prey. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah. There's something, like I said, there's something I think kind of sinister with Black Noir.
Starlight sits down. Homelander smiles, and his eyes stop glowing. He says, now, I know that you want to make this whole deep thing and all the single ladies moment. He holds up a fist and says, power, right? Then he pats her on the shoulder, then continues. But really what you've done is pulled off every criminal's wet dream. I mean, the 7 is down by 2. I just can't help noticing that it all started when you came along, which makes me wonder which one of us is next. A-Train pops off saying, you
I love how unhinged he is.
Yeah, he wants to accept no responsibility in this situation at all.
Absolutely
and
not.
He's tying in the situation with Popclaw into this as well.
Yes.
So that's where his anger is coming from, right?
Yeah.
Starlight maintains that she didn't do anything. Homelander yells, enough! We're a different breed. We shine with the golden light of Providence, but you've been helping these mud people to go against us. Mud people. What is that like what does that mean?
People.
Is that a religious reference?
No, I just think it's just kind of how it's the bags of blood and meat and water. Basically, I think you just kind of you blend it all together. It is just a bunch of mud. So maybe that's what he means.
Okay. Starlight has stood up again, and she is backing away from Homelander as he is walking towards her. She says no, and there are tears in her eyes. And again, to your point on the acting, she's doing a great job.
Yes.
He is standing inches in front of her. He has his finger in front of her face and tells her, "Shut your mouth, young lady." He lowers his voice and asks, "If you were in my position, what would you do to you?" And now she's really crying.
Yeah, she's real scared.
Maeve stands up and says, "Homelander, that's enough." Without looking at her, Homelander asks, "You got something to add, Maeve?" Maeve says, "She didn't know." Homelander says, "Well, she stinks of adrenaline and her heart's beating like a little rabbit."
It's because she's scared to death that he's going to fry her or cut her in half right there. My heart would be about to burst too.
Maeve says, "The only thing she's guilty of is being stupid. She obviously fell for this Hugh Campbell guy, and he's pumping her for information, so back off, leave her alone." Homelander finally turns to Maeve and says, "Wow, Starlight, you must be something special." I can't remember the last time Maeve gave a shit about anyone, really. Maeve has an indignant look on her face. Homelander slowly walks over to her. He takes a deep breath, lets it out. In a quiet voice, he asks, "And if I say no?" How do you read this? Do you think he feels that she can actually stop him? Why would he ask that?
He might feel that because I personally believe that she is the only competition that if she got the drop on him somehow, she could take him maybe.
Okay.
Possibly. In a long run standoff, maybe not. He might be one of those guys like, like the Hulk, the more angry he gets, the more he cuts loose. And we've seen what she can take. I mean, we've seen a armored car wrap around her like it was not even a tin can. So she's the only one that's got a stance to stand up to him.
I wonder what the heat vision would do to her. That's the only thing I get caught up on. But because you're right, from a taking a punch perspective, she seems to be able to take it.
Well, this is another thing that I question too, because we'll bring it up a little bit later on at the very, very end, because it's going to go back to translucent and his impenetrable skin as well. Just because it's impenetrable, does that not mean that it still can't hurt, that it still wouldn't hurt like a son of a gun? Like if it's impenetrable up to an extent, like say you could take a 50 caliber bullet, okay, that's great. But is it going to break ribs? Is it still going to hurt you, or it's just not going to punch through you and cut you in half? Or are there degrees of things that are stronger that are going to get harder and heavier hitting? I don't know. I'm curious. I don't know. These are all good questions.
Maeve says, "Come on, I got this. It's you and me, remember?" Homelander whispers, "Don't say I never do anything for you." He winks at Maeve and turns around. He addresses the wider audience. "All right, you want her, you got her. She's your responsibility now. I just hope you're right about her, for both your sakes." He smiles at both of them and claps his hands. He says, "Class dismissed." What an intense scene, man.
Man, incredible scene. Because I mean, you're not sure because first time I saw that, you're not sure if he's not going to hurt her.
Oh, that part where his eyes light up?
Yes.
I mean,
yes. I mean, I was prepared for him to kill her. I mean, I think he wouldn't have thought twice about it either, apparently, because he was ready.
Yeah.
He was ready to go.
I love how A-Train takes no responsibility at all.
Yes.
Just trying to put it all on Starlight.
She's the only person that's like shown any decency. Besides, Maeve finally shows a touch of decency standing up for her.
Maeve almost has a reverse from everybody else in this, right? Because they're all fallen almost, right? Except Starlight, she's new. Maeve seems to be coming up.
Yes.
We see her humanity emerging throughout the series.
Yeah, I think so.
Kimiko is stirring muffin batter.
I love her. I like seeing her doing something fun.
Yeah.
Isn't it nice to see her cleaned up and pretty and having a good time?
Yeah, she is bathed. She is smiling, actually. She looks like she's having a semi-normal day, which is good.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's nice.
It appears she is using a muffin top pan. Would you agree that the muffin top is the best part of the muffin?
I love muffins. I reference Frank Zappa because he has a great song that some mutual friends of ours love. I will send you the link to Muffin Man, a fantastic Frank Zappa jam. But there is a Seinfeld episode where Elaine is cutting the tops off muffins And her boss sees this and he quits his job and opens a muffin top business, but he's making the whole muffins and cutting off these muffin bit bottoms. And there's like, they're having problems discarding the muffin stump.
Okay.
The homeless people won't eat them because they think they've been eaten because the tops are cut off of them. So people, you can't give these, we've got we got pounds and pounds of muffin stumps, but no tops. So I didn't realize that there was such a thing as tops until you brought this up. That's hilarious.
Yeah, you'll notice the pan is very shallow.
I did not notice it.
So you have less of a stump.
Okay. No, it's no stump at all. It's just like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, then this makes me think, is there a way to do, you bake them in zero gravity so it's only the muffin top? It's like a sphere of muffin top.
That would probably be wonderful, wouldn't it? But it's like the problem with is because the cooking in zero gravity is like you would have to be able to keep the food in the dead center of where it's cooking. But if you could do that and arrange it, that would I'm fascinated by the idea of cooking in zero G.
Maybe Elon Musk has a plan for this at SpaceX. The bakery,
Elon.
the bakery in space. All right,
Twittering and baking, Twitter and making muffin tops in space. In zero G,
they can make them on the way to Mars, and we'll be jealous.
On the way to Mars,
we'll be jealous of their perfect muffins as they're going to Mars,
right. Which we will never see because they won't be coming back this way.
Yep.
Dadgummit.
Yep.
Okay.
For once, we've already mentioned this. Kimiko is smiling. It's very nice to see.
Yes.
Butcher is eating a salad, it appears. I guess he does not only live on Hot Pockets, which is good.
It's a little bit better than me. Mm-hmm. I tend to be the Hot Pocket guy.
This cooking is a team up between Frenchie and Kimiko. He comes up saying, "Look at this," pointing at all the muffins that they've baked. He sees that she's stirring, and he begins giving her pointers on the way to handle the batter. And he shows her how to fold the batter, not to stir the batter. This helps keep them spongy. And this is even more indication that he was going to open a restaurant, as you suspected.
So I was not wrong on the Fogo de Chao incident.
No, but though I don't know that he was going to open a churrascaria. I still think it would be a French fine dining establishment.
Probably. Mm-hmm. He was just using. He would have made use of the facilities for his own fine dining.
Correct.
His 3-star Michelin dining restaurant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Enter Huey. Kimiko looks at Huey, then at Frenchie. Frenchie tells Huey she wants to know where he was. Butcher chimes in, "That's a compelling question." He looks pissed.
Yeah, he does.
Huey walks up to Butcher and asks if they can talk. Butcher says, "That's what we're doing, isn't it?" He's not looking at him as he's talking. Huey indicates he wants to speak in private. Butcher tells him, "There ain't no secrets here, son. Spit it out." chimes in, telling Butcher, "Stop being an asshole. Just talk to the guy."
Right.
I'd want on my team, man. I bet we would get along great.
Dude, is worth like about 5 of these other guys, I think. He's the man.
Well, you love Frenchie too.
Dude, Frenchie's amazing.
But I have a feeling Frenchie would be kind of unreliable. Kind of. I mean, he's the guy you like, yes, but he's unreliable.
He is, but in the comics, he's actually quite volatile. He's really volatile from what little I've seen of him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no animosity between him and Butcher whatsoever. He loves Butcher, but he's crazy, apparently.
Okay.
Like real crazy.
Butcher says, "Huey doesn't mind, do you, Huey?" Huey looks over at Frenchie and Kimiko, then says, "Okay, fine. I don't think I can do this anymore." And this makes me think, what happened to whatever the price I'm willing to pay it?
I think it's just because he's really falling in love, dude. He's gone through so much stuff, and I believe that at the beginning of the episode where we see that Huey and Starlight have been getting together, how long has this been going on? This could be more time has obviously elapsed here in this latter couple episodes. I think again, it could be weeks or something like that. So I think he's just really falling head over heels for her.
I suspect that this episode takes place immediately after the last one. Here's why.
Okay.
They were in a bar. Okay. Butcher came in the bar and warned him.
Okay.
And Starlight was talking about going off on a trip somewhere, Bahamas or with a pink beach or whatever.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Butcher, so it's a nighttime. Presumably they're at the bar at night. I think they just left there and went to the hotel, and Butcher just followed him.
Just followed her. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Copy that. Okay. Thank you.
Again, I could be wrong, but that's just my suspicion. So.
No, I think that's a great, nicely reasoned out.
Thank you. This statement from Huey causes both and Frenchie to look up at him. Butcher gets up and says, "Do what?" as he walks away from Huey, because Huey says, "I don't think I can do this anymore." Huey tells him, "This, I mean, Vought, whatever, with Kamiko, it's awful, and you got to stop it, but I can't." Butcher says, "Right. You just want to kick back, drink a few Mai Tais, and let us do all the work. Is that it?" Huey says, "I managed to go my whole life without seeing someone die horribly, and now I'm up to about a half dozen, so I think I'm good."
Right?
Yeah, that is quite a few.
I gotta agree.
Yeah. Butcher says, "Please, you're a killer, Huey, just like the rest of us. Now, why don't you stop pissing around and tell everybody what this is really all about? Yeah?" Would you agree with Butcher's assessment of Huey here? He has killed, but I don't know that he is a killer. Is it simply that he's capable of killing when he needs to, as opposed to someone that can't kill ever?
I think that, all we ever see Huey do for the most part is react. He's not, very rarely is he going into this with any plan. They just throw him in there, like, let's say when they go into the where we find Kamiko and under the bodega there. They just drag this dude who has zero training and is a liability in a situation like this into situations. But there's something obviously happening, because MM's reaction and Frenchie's reaction to the idea of him quitting, they seem almost hurt by this. Like they see something in him that maybe we haven't seen yet. But I think we'll see a little bit more of it toward the end of the episode with Huey. But there's something there with Huey, Frenchie, and MM there, that those guys actually look a little bit like they've taken him under their wing, and they seem hurt that he would bail on them in a way.
That's interesting. I did not pick up on that, but I can kind of see it now. Yeah.
Right, because they seem surprised by the revelation, because but this is obviously how good of a job he's been keeping Starlight undercover from MM and Frenchie too. Mm-hmm. Their surprise is genuine that first off he's been sleeping with her, and then on top of the fact that well, not only that, I'm thinking about quitting and leaving you guys. This is kind of a big deal for them. It looks like to me.
The thing about him being a killer, I have to think that there are some people that would not have pulled that trigger no matter what for Translucent.
Right.
And when Butcher says you're a killer, I think that's what he's talking about, is
that's probably it.
The fact that he has the ability when he needs to. He's not a murderer just outright trying to kill people, right? But when that
was I think he weighed out the possible options on the scenario and made one of those kind of same decisions that Butcher and apparently the other guys seem to respect, because he was able to do it.
Yep.
It's like I said, he's not a cold-blooded killer, but I think again, I'm not being for a killer, but I think the Translucent scenario, that was probably the only way to handle the Translucent scenario.
That baby on that poster egged him on.
Oh, it did. I love that. I love that poster. I want that poster for some reason.
Okay.
Because all I can ever think about is Translucent covered, all his innards all over Huey. It's just whenever I think of that picture.
Huey says, "Fine, Annie. Okay, it's about Annie." And then Annie is Starlight. I've just been calling her Starlight the whole time. And then puts his hand on his head and says, so yeah, now MM and Frenchie know that he's been sleeping with her. Butcher claps and says, "Finally, he's been sneaking off to give her one at Lincoln Grand." That's the hotel that he followed them to.
And it's a nice hotel.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Huey asks if Butcher has been following him. Butcher says, "Like you've been giving me a choice." Huey maintains she doesn't know anything and that he won't tell her anything. They'll just... Butcher interrupts him saying, "Just what? Off to Epcot, the Hamptons, maybe pump out a few flying babies?" Huey says he doesn't know. Butcher tells him he doesn't know because he's not thinking, except with his...
Right.
Huey tells him he's wrong about her. Butcher says Starlight is playing him and he's too blind to see it. It's really unfortunate that Butcher is going to appear to be correct very shortly. You know? I mean, he's not actually correct because he isn't technically playing him, but it's going to look that way when they come at him.
That's right.
Huey says, "Right. So better to be loyal to a dead woman who doesn't know and doesn't care. How's that working out for you?" And this is really pushing hard on Butcher.
It is, but let me ask you this, though. How do you feel about that? I mean, after all, now remember, This is the same guy that says stuff that makes that seem quite tame to a traumatized and in shock Huey. Now, I understand sometimes when people are in shock, you have to say some things to get their attention. So you may have to say some harsh things to them. But there's no excuse for the hidden, once you've done a murder, blackmail is pretty easy from the Believe Expo. That kind of stuff in the way, like he talked about, talked to MM, in the NICU. He talks to his friends terribly. Why is this so harsh? Why is this a line? I have a dead wife. That's not a line.
Okay.
It's not the same. Now, mind you, my situation is not a sudden. My late wife was ill. She didn't, it wasn't one of these things where she disappeared. I understand that he's got a lot of wondering what's going on and why, somebody disappearing is horrific with having zero answers. I understand that. But when a man constantly treats people the way he treats people, he can't not expect to catch some every now and then.
You are correct. I think why I felt this was pushing it with Butcher is because how attached he is to this vendetta. That is his only reason to live. I have seen no other reason that he exists at this point.
Yeah, I think, and you're right. That's all I can see is it's an overwhelming hatred. Well, look at the fact of where they are right now, where he turned down the offer from Mallory, or not Mallory, but from the other
Rayner,
Susan. Susan, yeah. When he turned down that money from on the Homelander thing, and then told his friends flat out that he just flat out lied to his friends and said that they just turned it down completely, and they did not. They said we'll back you all the way. You just can't have Homelander.
Right.
Butcher is a very complex and strange fella, and vengeance is we've talked about the dig the two graves.
Butcher is walking away from Huey when Huey says this, and he stops. There is a huge amount of tension in the room.
I thought Butcher was going to kill him.
Yeah, I thought he'd pull a knife out and
something. I was waiting for MM to get between them, but
yeah. There's a bit of a stare down, and then Huey's phone rings. It's his dad. He takes the call, but it's not his dad. The person on the phone says, "Hey, Huey, long time no talk. I've been thinking about you a lot lately." Huey asks who it is. The camera goes into Huey's dad's house. We see that it's A-Train, who says, "I thought you would recognize my voice. You spend so much time obsessing about me. Am I right?" A-Train hands the phone to Huey's father and says, "Say hi to your baby boy, Dad." Huey's dad is really nervous. He says, "Oh, hey, Huey. Why is he here? He says you're in some kind of trouble." Huey asks his dad if he's okay. Before he can respond, A-Train takes the phone back and says he's fine. Remington Steele's almost on. Huey tries to plead his case with A-Train.
I don't know if you hear this in the background as we pan away from Huey talking, and it's showing the rest of the crowd as you hear, but Huey mentions, and you can hear it, it's Medicare or Medicaid, suggesting to me that there's something the matter with his father.
I did not hear that.
And I don't know if it's maybe maybe he's mentally disabled, possibly in something. Maybe he has a mental illness or something. But it's something in that suggests to me that there is an underlying problem. It could be physical, or it could be a physical disability or a mental disability.
Interesting. Yeah, I did not hear that.
Yeah, I thought that was hidden. It was kind of buried, and I thought, well, that's something that shouldn't be buried in a way, because it's a piece of the picture.
Yeah, definitely. MM realizes that if Huey's burned, then he's. He gets ready to take off. Butcher looks at his security camera in his apartment and says he's burned. They've got him. MM is trying to access something in his laptop. When he opens the screen, before the screen changes, we see that he was reading an article about the Shining Light Liberation Army kidnapping someone in the Philippines. And it's just as I suspected. I think that MM was speaking Filipino with that salon technician.
Yes, so, that was a great catch, because you did think that was Filipino, and so yes, good job, sir.
So that made me.
We'll get you a menacing massage T-shirt for you, sir.
Is that a reward?
That or a free Batman quote or something. Man, I don't know.
I was just thinking the menacing massage. I'm trying to remember. It's guaranteed to leave you uptight and
freaked out. And freaked out.
Oh man. Whatever the system is that he was accessing, the screen changes and says he has lost access. His account is no longer valid. A-Train is on the phone with Huey, says, get your ass over here in 20 minutes or I'm going to burst through him like a piñata. Do you understand me? Just like I did your girlfriend.
Do you think the way he mentions that is that just something commonly that he does? Like, hey, I go popping through people all the time when I'm high.
I don't know. I really don't. Because when he was talking to that guy in the back room, it was kind of like a novelty, like a weird occurrence. I mean, maybe it was just
like,
the fact that he swallowed the tooth. I don't know.
Yeah, something about it, that stood out to him.
Yeah. And it was at this point that I realized how clueless the dad is. He's nervous that A-Train is there, but he's not acting upset or anything at him. And
he's not really scared.
And he knows that he killed Huey's girlfriend.
Again, this goes back to the Medicare remark. Maybe some kind of mental issue that could be another reason why there's no mom in the house. It's hard to take care of someone with that's disabled. It's like I didn't find it hard. It was I was in love. It didn't alter it for me. But for some people, it's a hard deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, if it's a mental thing where like Alzheimer's or something, I could see how that would be very difficult.
Oh, that'd be harsh. That'd be real hard.
Or dementia. It could be challenging.
Yeah.
Huey says, yeah, got it. A-Train says, and Huey, alone, if I catch a whiff of one of your little asshole friends, Huey says, he's got it. A-Train hangs up. Says all his bank accounts are frozen and flagged. He is leaving a voicemail to Monique telling her to leave the house immediately when she gets the message and to lay low and call him. Butcher tells Huey, well, I hope she was worth it. Huey says it wasn't her. Butcher says it doesn't matter and he's going to do her in. Huey says, the hell you will. Says, hold on a second. She doesn't know it wasn't her. She's never seen me before. Not once, not ever. So how did I get burned? And I'm really impressed with how clearly he's thinking. When he's freaking out about his family, he's able to keep on point, analyzing the situation. I mean, I'm just a fanboy. Every little thing he does, I'm just impressed by.
Absolute fanboy. Yep. Is great.
Yep. Butcher thinks for a moment, then says, Mesmer. You idiots had to go to Mesmer. Me. And he just walks off. Huey thanks tells Huey that was not smart to sleep with her. Then he also walks off. Oh man,
that is so funny.
But at least didn't yell at him or anything. He kept it cool and he said, not smart, buddy.
Yeah.
Huey shows up at his house. His father is anxiously sitting on the couch. They greet each other. The dad says he's acting strange, real jumpy. Huey asks where he is, and then we hear a loud noise, and A-Train says, right here, sport. He's holding some special edition action figures that he found in Huey's room. Apparently, only a few hundred of them were made for Comic-Con. A-Train's laughing. He's saying, you were a fan, and not like a dabbler. No, you were Superfan 99.
Right?
Huey's dad politely interrupts and asks what this is about. A-Train tells him to shut the up. Huey tells his dad it's going to be okay and turns to A-Train. He tells him, hey, I came alone. You let him go. A-Train says, alone, huh? Then he zooms off and comes back behind Huey a second later, scaring him. He exclaims, wow, you really did come alone. Next time, well, there's not going to be a next time, but next time, at least have a few cards up your sleeve.
Right.
I noted that A-Train is really looking rough. He's sweaty. He's panting.
Oh, yeah.
He's out of breath. He's not his normal self.
It seems like every time he's using its power, it's costing him physically.
Yeah. And it's almost like withdrawal symptoms as well, right?
Right. I think it's a little both. You're probably right on that, too.
Huey says, okay, you mean like this? He holds up a syringe full of Compound V. And it's actually impressive in this scene so far. He's been very calm given the circumstances. He's calming his dad down. A-Train sees the Compound V, and that's all he seems to be able to look at.
Yeah.
Huey asks him if he's jonesing for a little jet fuel. The dad asks what the Compound V is. A-Train says, I don't know what that is. Huey challenges us, saying, oh, you don't? So you won't mind if I do this? And then he squeezes the Compound V out.
I love that. That's great.
A-Train freaks out, screaming. He's like, no! What the is wrong with you? Huey assures him he has a bigger dose, a real dose hidden outside. If A-Train lets his dad go, he'll hand it over, then A-Train can do whatever he wants with him. A-Train's thinking about it. Huey says, now, tell me what's better, the rush or knowing that as long as you take it, you'll be the fastest. A-Train tells him that if Huey tries anything, he can catch up to dear old daddy in a millisecond.
I love how Huey eggs him though. He eggs. That's a really bold move from Huey.
When he asks him which is better.
Yeah, when he gives him that. Yeah, now if you'll be the fastest. That remark about that stuff. He's really egging him on hard.
Mm-hmm.
I just like the way that Huey is standing up. He has something to lose in this scenario. His dad, and so he's really stepped up and he's really brave, very, very bold in this scene.
Yeah, he is. I agree. Yeah. Huey tells his dad it's time for him to go. The dad tries to say he's not leaving without Huey, but Huey tells him he'll be right behind him. The dad says, I'm not leaving you with him. You're just a kid. My kid. Huey tells him, I'll be all right. I got this. Then he tells him to go again. The dad struggles with it for a while, but then he actually leaves.
Yeah. Good job, Huey. Good job.
A-Train says, all right, where is it? Huey says, this must be pretty good if it's worth running through a human being for. A-Train says, oh my God, man, that was an accident. Where the is the V? Huey says that accident had a name. A-Train fires back. What about Popclaw? She had a name too. Charlotte. The only good thing in my life is gone now. What is this, man? I kill your girlfriend and you kill mine? Huey looks confused.
Wow.
He says, I didn't kill your girlfriend.
Yeah. I love how A-Train is so delusional at this point. How there's nothing, that Huey killed his girlfriend. You killed your girlfriend, dude. We watched you do it. He can't even own that.
So this next point, let's come back to that thought. This next point right here.
Okay.
A-Train tells him that Huey used her and put her in danger, then threw her out like she was garbage. The only difference between them is A-Train made a mistake. Huey did it on purpose. So who's worse? I thought that was a really compelling question.
It is. It's a compelling question, but it's still not really true because, again, Huey did not kill Popclaw.
He did not.
A-Train killed Popclaw to cover his own butt. Now, Huey may have been part of the reason for that eventually led to this, him making that decision. But really, it was his fear of Homelander. What would Homelander do to A-Train and or possibly Popclaw why he killed Popclaw? And again, it's not really Huey. He just won't own. I mean, I understand he still can't. And this is where he's really showing that he's still a junkie when you watch him squirt that stuff out and he freaks out.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in full junkie mode. That's all he can think about right now is that he's not thinking about anything but that compound V, I don't think.
Yeah. I think the big issue with A-Train is he just never felt any remorse for what he did to Huey's girlfriend.
Yeah, absolutely none.
Not in the slightest. Did not care at all.
No. She meant absolutely nothing to him.
Now, they did use Popclaw for sure.
Sure.
So I guess you could debate the negligence and lack of remorse on A-Train's part or intentionally using somebody to help you because you have leverage on them. I don't know which is worse.
Yeah, I don't either.
In the background, you can see the vent cover above the door being opened from inside. We see a hand open and lower the vent cover quietly.
I love that. It's like, again, going back to that, what I was just talking about him, how he sees himself that's why this is able to go on because he's so focused on himself. He's not even focusing on Huey here.
Mm-hmm. Kimiko shows up out of nowhere and clubs A-Train's leg, causing him to collapse. His femur is sticking out of his right thigh. Now,
what's that? That's like a good 6 inches of femur sticking out, isn't it?
It is. And bone density. We put a pin in that.
Yeah, we did.
So between her super strength, and this is not like a baseball bat. This is an iron bar. But she's
just a piece of metal. Yeah.
Yeah, she is strong.
Yes, she is.
MM is at home trying to convince Monique that she isn't safe to stay there. She is telling him he swore to her and to Jesus Christ that he was done with Billy Butcher. MM says he gets it. Everything Butcher touches turns to flaming hot. Monique says she isn't blaming Butcher. Last she checked, MM is a grown man.
Yep.
MM admits that it's his fault, but they can't have this fight right now. Monique tells him he put them in danger without thinking twice. The conversation is interrupted when MM's daughter comes down the stairs. Now, we hadn't heard that he had a daughter before this moment.
Right.
MM gives her a hug and asks what she's been up to. She was drawing him a picture, and he tells her it's a beautiful drawing. Monique tells the daughter MM is taking them on a sleepover somewhere and asks her to help pack her toys. MM tells Monique they don't have enough time to pack toys. They need to leave. And Monique is giving him quite the stare.
Yeah, the Monique story is a lot different in the comics as well.
Okay.
And what I'm not deep into it, but she's apparently a drunk and he's got the little girl.
Okay.
And she's hanging out with bad elements, and Butcher scares the bad elements away. It's pretty funny. Butcher's a lot more stand-up guy in the comics so far.
Interesting choice to not have that in the show.
Yeah.
Can't have deadbeat moms.
Right. Yeah. Can't have that.
Madeline is on the phone with a senator who voted for the bill allowing Supes to support the military. She thanks him for voting with his conscience and hangs up with him. Homelander is in her office with her. She announces there are 3 votes to go. Additionally, the BA guys said the Pentagon is shelling out $35 billion on the low end. That would put Vought ahead of Lockheed Martin as a military contractor.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Homelander says, amazing. That's incredible. Edgar must be thrilled. Madeline says, ugh, Edgar, we did this. You and me. This is about us. She comes over and sits on the couch next to him.
Well, she's really excited by this too.
That money? Yeah.
Do you think she's just excited by the money? Is that what really turns her on? Do you think that's her primary motivation?
I don't know if it's the money or the success, the winning.
And the power, I guess, too. I mean, or does that just go hand in hand with either one of those?
I don't know. I really
don't know either. So.
Maybe they go together because because when you win those big deals, it gives you more influence. You're a winner at the company.
And so she did more than double down on what she was talking about another episode about Homelander personally bringing like $12.3 billion,
I think it was something like that.
So this is, almost triple, if a little bit more than that. And from this one thing. So that's got to be pretty exciting for her, I guess.
Yeah. Homelander sits there for a minute. His hands are in his lap and he's looking at him. He asks her if she remembers the marketing girl. Madeline guesses some lady named Ashley and apologizes for firing her.
Ashley.
She begins to give some explanation and Homelander interrupts. He says, no. 7-8 years ago. Becca. Madeline says, Becca. Becca Butcher? He says, yes, that's it. Yeah, her. Madeline asks, what about her? Homelander says, well, she's missing. Madeline asks, what do you mean missing? He says, I mean missing, as in missing, presumed dead. She says, wow. He says, yeah, I looked at her file, and the cops think it was suicide. Yeah, it seems her husband, well, he got pretty riled up. William Butcher. He's looking at her for a while after he says Butcher's name. She asks if she's supposed to know his name. He says, no, not specifically, but I was just wondering if you knew what happened to her. Madeline says, I just assumed that she quit. He questions her saying, quit? We'll get to this later. Madeline wants to know if there's any particular reason why he's asking all these questions. He says, no, I'm just curious. It's interesting, right? She says it's definitely sad. He agrees. Madeline scoots closer to him on the couch and says, I was thinking I could get Maria to stay late with the baby and maybe we could order in and catch up. Just me and you. He puts his hand on her cheek and says, you know what? That sounds amazing. Then he takes his hand and pats her leg and says, but you go be a mommy. He gets up and walks out. She looks rejected and upset.
Is she scared too?
I don't think so.
No fear?
She just looks like rejected to me. I don't know that she's scared, but his whole reason for being there was likely to tease out information about Becca, right?
Yep.
So he right now is completely preoccupied with this whole little quest that he's on. And I guess maybe, I don't know how much of that she remembers. You would think she would remember.
Right.
But we'll cover it later in this episode, so it's not really too spoilery.
Well, it may not be, because just think of the shenanigans we've seen from this little window into these guys' lives. So she's been doing this for years, for over 8 years. There's got to be a lot of things that are swept under. There's got to be a lot of skeletons in that closet.
Well, we say that I have a boss, and her memory is crazy, man. Like, she remembers the most obscure stuff from like 10, 15 years ago. So there's a possibility that somebody could remember this far back. There's a couple people I work with like that.
Me, please.
I have to think that she would remember what we're going to cover later in this episode, because that's a pretty serious. So we'll talk about it when we get there. Let's do that. Yeah, but either way, I don't think she looks well. Now that we say that, maybe she is a little scared because he's digging this information up.
Yeah, got information from her that she realizes that maybe she gave information. She got nothing from this exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, she has something from the exchange.
Yeah.
Or but this one, she gained nothing. She lost on this exchange.
Yeah, and she was rejected. He had rejected her advances.
And rejected. So, yeah.
So,
it's a double whammy.
This next scene.
Dude, I'm going to say something from the actual, they list it in the, did you see the synopsis for the episode when you read it? If anyone ever asks to touch your gills, tell them no. I'm sorry, in Akron, specifically in Akron.
Oh, okay.
So don't let them.
That's a little preview of the scene we're about to go in.
Oh my word, this is really, really. I think this is possibly one of the most uncomfortable moments in the whole series.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too deep into it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
The Deep has picked up some girl. I'm not going to be in excruciating detail here. I'm going to not live up to the name of the show for a moment because I don't have it in me.
We'll go for a higher elevation on this one.
The Deep has picked up some girl and brought her back to his place. They begin to make out, and she asks him if it's true what they say about him. He doesn't respond, and she begs him to take his top off because she wants to see it. He tells her he doesn't look like everybody else. She still wants to see, so he takes his top off. He has gills lining the left and right side of his torso. The girl is very excited and laughs, saying, "Oh my God, that's so up." She then takes a hand and starts feeling his stomach, putting a finger in one of his gills, and the noise is horrendous. He shrinks back and tells her that's sensitive. She gets aggressive and throws him down on the couch and straddles him. And I'm not going to get into this part too much because I was really cringing getting through it. But basically,
yeah, it's rough.
She violates one of his gills with her pinky, even though he is protesting. She is taking care of herself at the same time, saying, "Oh, you little freak, you like getting your gills fingered."
Oh.
He does not like it. He's groaning in pain.
It's a very uncomfortable scene, yes.
The noise is this disgusting squelching noise. It's horrible.
Oh, it's so disgusting on so many levels.
Yeah.
He's so, and like I said, it's kind of he's mentioned about in the past when he's trying to look like a victim to Starlight about worse things have happened to him. Well, here he's kind of getting a little comeuppance, right? I mean, quite literally, of what comes around goes around.
Let's move on.
That's bad. Yeah, well, please.
Mesmer is walking.
This is also a very uncomfortable scene.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to it. It's Mesmer is in a train station. As he is walking through the train station, he sees Butcher in front of him. He freezes for a minute, then drops everything he's holding and runs the opposite direction.
Butcher does that Terminator walk through that stage. He didn't walk fast, just kind of just that.
It was
we know why later.
A very slow walk.
Yeah.
It was with intention. I like those slow walking scenes. It reminds me of the scene in Elysium where it was at the end of the movie. Have you seen Elysium?
I have not. I've kind of wanted to see that one. So I should check it out?
Okay. Well, we'll talk about it later after you watch it. Did you see District 9?
I did.
Okay. Did you like it?
I like District 9.
Yeah. Same director.
Oh, okay. Blomquist or Neil something?
Neil Blomkamp. Blomkamp or Blomkamp, something like that. But either way.
Okay.
There's some political overtones to it about healthcare, but
sure.
The one South African guy that was in District 9, he plays the antagonist in Elysium. He does a great job in that role, man. He's a good actor. But either way, this kind of reminds me of a scene towards the end of the movie when Matt Damon's facing down the other guy, and there's like a slow walk scene. Always very cinematic when they do the slow walk.
Right. It's always very thought out.
Mm-hmm. Finally, Mesmer finds a restroom and he hides in the last stall, and he's curled up, sitting on top of the tank, and his feet are up on the, he's so they can't see under the door.
Right.
Butcher finds him kicking the door in. He says, "Having a good growler, are we?" I tried to look this up because I assumed it meant, he's growling while he's doing the business. But the definition that I found was the British slang for something. I am 100% sure that Butcher didn't mean it this same way.
Right. This way.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that he means it as a euphemism for going to the restroom.
Yeah. But the British slang one, I'm not going to cover what it means here, but now I know what that means too. So
Got it. Okay.
Butcher grabs Mesmer and throws him on the floor. Mesmer wants to know how Butcher found him, and Butcher tells him he stuck a bug on him when they were at his house. And then I think he says, "Because you."
And he also he reclaims the bug too, doesn't he? I like that.
He does. He takes it out of his pocket. Yeah. Mesmer asks what Butcher expected him to do. It was Homelander, and that is a lie. He called Homelander.
Right, for a possibility of a low 5-figure salary, right?
Right, from $10,000 to $40,000 is 5 figures. As a reminder, yeah. Because I was like, that can't be right. Because everybody always talks about wanting a 6-figure job. I was like, 5-figure? What does 5 figures even entail? He said low 5 figures, not even high 5 figures,
low 5 figures. So I'm assuming under 20,
yeah, it's like 10,
20 or 30.
Yeah, 10 to 40,000 was low.
Right.
Butcher punches Mesmer and time slows down. Mesmer, through the contact with Butcher's fist, can see inside his mind. We see Butcher and Becca sitting at the dining room table. She looks upset, and he's telling her she has to talk to him. The force of the punch sends Mesmer flying. He's telling Butcher to wait. He can help him. Butcher gives him a solid uppercut. This contact shows Butcher at home looking for Becca. She isn't there, and this must have been right after she disappeared.
Right.
Mesmer says he can help Butcher find his missing wife. Butcher gives him a hand, pulls him up to a standing position, and then he puts both of his hands on the sides of Mesmer's head. We don't see what Mesmer is seeing, but Mesmer starts hyperventilating and he begins crying. And he begs Butcher, "Please, I have a daughter." Butcher then slams his head into one of the sinks in the bathroom repeatedly. It is absolutely brutal. One of the worst deaths I've seen on the show. Yeah. It's very brutal.
I think why it's so brutal is because that one feels in particular very real. I mean, this is something you could do to somebody, and I didn't want to see that. That's rough, man. That's hard to see.
Yeah, because like when heat vision scythes somebody, or a baby's laser eyes, or you use them as a laser gun, that's make believe. You have your suspension of disbelief, but this is like a legitimate scenario that could occur, right? So it hits a little bit harder.
Yeah, it feels really you really feel that you're watching somebody get killed. It's really, really harsh.
And then Haley Joel Osment, he just looks like a nice guy. I mean, he's been a piece of in this show.
He does. He's down on his luck. He's really, even though he's responsible for that luck, it's like he's down on his luck, and it's like he doesn't deserve to be beat to death. I don't think. I mean, you could maim him a little bit, but I mean, hey, whatever. Butcher's brutal. He leaves no witnesses, so I guess he's a professional.
Well, professional killer. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's right. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Butcher's looking at himself in the mirror. He has a flashback. A woman comes to his apartment. He tells her, "Don't want none, off." She shows him a video on a laptop and says, "I believe this is a few days after you met Homelander at a Christmas party." The video shows Becca going into an office at the Vought Tower with Homelander. The lady that's there with Butcher then shows a video of Becca coming out of the office 3 hours later, and she looks rough. Shirt's untucked. She has one shoe on. She looks disoriented. She kind of gets herself together and walks out of the shot. The lady that's there with Butcher says, not long after that, Becca went missing and has remained so ever since. One way or another, she believes Homelander was involved. Butcher says, "Homelander? But he's a superhero."
Just like Huey said it.
Yeah.
Didn't he? Almost exactly.
Yeah. There's some similarities with this conversation and the one that he had with Huey, isn't there?
Absolutely.
She sits down on the couch next to him and says, "You wouldn't believe what they get up to." Butcher looks at her and says, "Who the are you?" She shows him a CIA badge and introduces herself as Mallory and says, "I'm the person who can get you payback." I mean, this is almost verbatim.
It is.
The conversation that Butcher had with Huey.
Yeah, and this is, remember, a minute ago with the A-Train and Huey's father, I'd mentioned that there's a lot of parallels in the show, and you have the dead girlfriends, A-Train's Pop Claw versus Robin,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got Butcher being in the exact same scenario apparently as Huey, and then turning around and doing the exact same thing to Huey. And so there's another one there somewhere. I can't remember what it was, but this show kind of had a couple of them. I was kind of struck by that for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why that struck me like that, but I found it just kind of intriguing.
Yeah. Interesting. Starlight is looking at her Sony phone.
That is a pretty nice looking phone.
I got to be honest with you. Sony phones seem pretty nice. They're expensive though. They have some like professional grade cameras on some of them, but it's like a $1,200 to $2,400 phone.
Gee whiz. It's a little bit much.
Yeah, they're expensive, but they seem pretty nice. Huey is trying to call her. She doesn't answer. She's sitting in a room at the Vought Tower. Maeve is making a martini, and she asks who's calling. Starlight tells her nobody. Maeve tells her if she wants to talk, she supposes they could. Starlight says no, but would it kill you to make me one of those? Nodding at the martini. Maeve kind of laughs and hands her the drink. She says, I had someone once. We were going to get away, start a family. Starlight asks what happened. Maeve chuckles and says, everyone always asks, what's our special weakness? Gamma rays, iron daggers, some ridiculous, stupid thing. The truth is, our weakness is the same as anyone's. It's people. The people we care about. So I say, cut them loose, for your good and for theirs. That way, you're really bulletproof. Maeve then walks off. Seems like a tough way to live.
Yeah, it does.
I can see her reasoning, though. Your loved ones will always have a target on their back.
I do. I have an interesting note about in comic books how a mutual friend led to superheroes becoming friends. It was Daredevil and Spider-Man. That was because someone that they liked was at risk and was killed. It was murdered, and it brought them together to track them down. I find that kind of interesting. But like I said, that's just a real far aside.
Mm-hmm. The Deep is at the grocery store. He's spending his per diem.
Yes, he is.
He has filled his cart with junk food. I see at least 5 bags of Doritos and a ton of boxes of Twinkies. He seems out of it. Maybe he's feeling a little bit violated.
Right. And I like that he's in his costume, but with a trench coat over the costume.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the contract? They gotta wear their costume always? Especially if you bring them to your town or something like that?
Starlight's always incognito.
That's true. And he's got those ridiculous gloves. That's the worst part. It's like lingerie with webbed fingers. I love it. I love it. He's wearing this. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Put some clothes on. Nobody know you.
The live lobsters in the seafood section catch his attention. He has a conversation with one. We, again, only hear his side of the conversation.
Right.
We don't speak marine life. He asks, what's up, man? How'd you end up here? The lobster responds. The Deep says, oh, tell me about it. Me too. The lobster says something else, causing the Deep to say, what's that? And he gets closer to the tank and says, oh, wait, you can't get in your head about that. It's really not that big of a deal. I'm going to get you out of here. Just hang tight. The Deep calls the fishmonger over and asks for him to get a lobster out of the tank.
Now, how long have you been wanting to say fishmonger?
My brother-in-law used to be a fishmonger. So we used to call him that.
Nice. It's not a term. Nice. It's not. You can't use that term very often. I've heard of fishmongers' wives, but the fishmonger.
It's not a common.
It also sounds like a bad bot superhero. Right.
The fishmonger. Maybe that's a Deep villain.
Oh my word! You just nailed it. That's his nemesis.
That's his nemesis.
The
unsustainably fishing the ocean.
Oh, that's epic. I love it.
Well, the fishmonger wouldn't be fishing. It would be a fisherman, right? So
I guess he would be the fisherman because is the monger the person is
he teams up with the fisherman that unsustainably fishes the ocean.
Right. So monger, is that a person that sells and or has works to do? I've heard of ironmonger.
I think it's a person that sells fish.
Copy that. Cool.
The fishmonger goes to get another lobster out of the tank, and the Deep tells him, no, this one right here, that's my guy. And he winks at the lobster. Fishmonger gets the lobster out of the tank and places him on a cutting board. He then picks up a knife, and before the Deep can stop him, he terminates the lobster.
Oh my!
It gives a squeak as its final breath.
That is so terrible. That is,
Yeah. And the Deep just kind of gets a sad look on his face.
That poor guy. I feel kind of bad for the guy.
He's on a downward spiral, man.
Oh my word. Yes, he is.
I don't like him, but I do feel bad for him.
I do. I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Well, because we're humans and we have empathy for things that we, it's done in such a way. And we're watching this guy's life go down the tubes. And
Yeah.
I love the phrase "down the tubes." As George Carlin says, "I want to see these tubes." Where are these tubes? Why is the country? But yes, I love seeing his life go down the tubes. So
at the safe house, Frenchie is on the phone. He's begging someone for a safe place to stay the night. The guy hangs up on him. Frenchie yells, I forget how he pronounces Poutin or something, or Poutoir or something, but either way, it translates to prostitute.
Okay. Did you see my note about the poutine?
Oh, what about it?
Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I'm familiar with what it is. Sounds delicious.
I'm just like, it sounds absolutely amazing. And for our listeners who don't know what poutine is, McDonald's fries and KFC gravy plus cheese curds.
Wait, I thought is it specifically those? Because I thought it was just a national dish. It was any French fry with gravy with the cheese curds.
Probably French fries with gravy and cheese curds is probably it. But I think the dream is the McDonald's fries and the KFC gravy, because those are two great things usually. That is the implication. I again, thank you, South Park and Crack Baby Athletic Association.
Was that in an episode?
Yes, it's the Crack Baby Athletic Association.
Okay.
Yes. You don't remember that? Do you not know that Slash is not real?
The rock star Slash?
The guitar player? Yes, Slash is not real. It's like Santa Claus.
Okay.
So whenever you see Slash play, it's one of our parents.
Let's reel it in. Let's reel it in.
Sorry. But that involved poutine and Slash.
Oh, man. Okay. Yep.
I'm sorry for all you people that did not know that Slash wasn't real.
You should have.
I apologize.
I'm going to need to cut that out. You ruined it.
I apologize. Yes.
Huey keeps trying to call Starlight. It's going straight to voicemail. introduces Huey to his daughter. Butcher comes back. He first greets Huey's dad, addressing him as Mr. Campbell. They shake hands. Butcher tells him he has a hell of a lad there, nodding over at Huey. Butcher turns and he sees MM's daughter. He says, hello, hello, hello. What have we got here then, eh? What's your name, sweetheart? You can call me Uncle Billy. Monique quickly interjects, saying, he ain't your uncle, honey. She then stands up and says, he ain't nothing to you. Butcher says, Monique. She slaps him, and it's a good one. Full contact.
Oh, it's a hard boy. It rocks him. It rocks him. But she just had told MM that it's like, you're a grown man. You're making your own decisions. Why is she still mad at Butcher? I guess she's still blaming him, even though she just blamed MM.
Yeah, everybody's in trouble right now for this situation.
Right. Mom's wrath.
Butcher smiles and he says, good to see ya. He takes it really well. He tries to call Starlight again. It goes to voicemail. And it's only been like 2 minutes. He has to have called her at least 100 times by now, if he's doing it this cadence. Kamiko is sitting really high on something, and then she's staring at Huey's dad. He asks Huey what she's doing, and Huey says it's okay. The dad then asks if the Oriental girl doesn't talk, and Huey corrects him, saying, Asian. And the dad's like, right, Asian. You're right, Asian. Huey tells him, and no, I don't think she does. Huey apologizes to his dad, saying he's really sorry for everything. His dad says, no, don't say sorry, no. Look at you, standing up for yourself. Jings. He then pats him on the leg. Jings is Scottish slang used to express surprise. Have you ever heard that before? I never heard that before.
You know, it's funny. In the comic book, Huey says it. And in the comic book, I have a note here. Huey actually looks like Simon Pegg, so much so that I actually asked the question. I was curious if Simon Pegg was actually an inspiration for this, and I did look it up. Huey is inspired by Simon Pegg.
Interesting.
But he was too old. He's too old to play Huey, but it's definitely the influence for him. So they got him to play Huey's dad.
That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Thought that's pretty cool. But yeah, he says Jings several times. And I'm not sure. I thought the Scooby-Doo kids always said, and maybe she said Jinkies. It's Jinkies. Never mind, not Jings. I wonder if that's tied to that. Anyhow, go ahead.
walks up to Butcher and confronts him about the deal with Susan. He has put together that Butcher didn't get Homelander's head on a plate, so he blew the whole deal up. Butcher denies it, saying he's way off. MM calls his bull, saying he's so hot for Homelander right now that he won't let anything get in his way, even if it's his own friends. MM tells him, you promised me things would be different. Matter of fact, you swore it. But this is worse. This is going to be Mallory's family all over again. Only this time, it's going to be my family. And if something happens to them, he doesn't finish the sentence. After a few moments, he says, I don't know what happened with you and Raynor or how that situation got up, but just please call her. Please. We are taken to a beautiful mansion. It's quite the estate.
It is quite nice.
Homelander flies in and greets an older man named Dr. Vogelbaum. I will refer to him as the Doctor henceforth because that is quite the name to say repeatedly.
That is a name.
Homelander says, surprise, thought I'd drop in on you. You look well. The doctor says, how long has it been, John? Homelander laughs and says, John. Long enough to know that no one calls me John anymore. Homelander looks at the dogs the doctor was playing with and asks, so what are these, pets? The doctor says, no, just breeding them, German retrievers. I try not to get too attached to my subjects. Homelander nods and says, well, that's true. He looks around and says, seems retirement suits you.
Well, remember, do we want to tell people who remember in the flashback in the previous episode when Homelander is in that commercial and they're talking about his house and his blanket?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the blanket when he flashes back, he's in that room and the one guy tapping on the glass and waving at him is this Dr. Vogelbaum.
That's a good call because I remember the doctor tapping on the window, but I didn't put the faces together. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
okay.
It's him.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
The doctor says, between this and 80 hours a week at the lab, I'll take the lab. No contest. Homelander asks, so you ever catch up with any of the old gang from Vought? The doctor laughs and says, look, do you mind if we don't do this? Homelander says, do what? The doctor says, this cat and mouse bull. You want to know about Rebecca Butcher. You went to Stillwell about it because you knew that'd tip over the first domino. Well, it led to me. So just ask. I'll be honest.
Love it.
Yeah, very direct.
I like this guy. Yeah. Very direct.
Homelander says, well, that would be a first. Foreshadowing.
Right.
They go inside and sit in what appears to be a wood-paneled study. It's a beautiful room, the kind you see in the houses of royalty.
Yeah, I'm reminded of Downton Abbey.
Yep.
Which I've confessed to watching. Yes, it's very that kind of estate.
If you ever watch The Crown, it looks a lot like the castle they go to in Scotland. They have some sitting rooms in there. It looks like that too.
Nice.
The doctor is telling a story. 8 years ago, Stillwell called me with quite an interesting challenge. Rebecca Butcher had come to her with a completely unprecedented medical condition. Homelander asks what condition. The doctor says she was pregnant with your child. We see a flashback, and Becca is showing Stillwell and the doctor her stomach. She's not visibly showing yet, but we're seeing light coming up from the inside of her abdomen. That's terrifying. Yeah.
Wow. That's so trippy looking.
Homelander is surprised. He thought he couldn't sire any children. The doctor says he also thought Homelander couldn't. He says, apparently nature is tenacious. The fetus was developing unnaturally fast. We told her we'd deliver the baby safely at a secure location, but she had to sign an NDA. Couldn't tell anyone, not even her husband. You can imagine the size of the potential scandal. We see another flashback.
Goodness.
Becca is being rushed into the delivery room. The baby is clawing its way out of her stomach. There's blood going everywhere. It's all over the floor. She's screaming.
Yeah.
It's like a chest burster from Alien.
Yeah, it's like the first. It's like the very first one. I love it.
Yeah.
It's brutal. A lot of blood.
The doctor says the baby clawed its way out of her. The blood loss. No one could have survived. She died on the table. Homelander asks about the baby. The doctor says lived all of 10 seconds, drowned in its mother's blood. Quite the bedside manner on this guy.
Right? Well, this is a guy that let a child grow up in a lab and regrets it now that he didn't get this guy to be raised up with other people. Well, that's coming. I'm so sorry. I jumped ahead of myself on that one.
Homelander asks if it was a boy. The doctor asks if it matters. Homelander asks, why didn't you tell me? The doctor says, to protect you. That's always job one at Vought, isn't it? Protect our most profitable asset.
It appears to be their motto, isn't it?
Yeah. Homelander asks, so why are you telling me now? The doctor tells him, you don't understand. The thing about crossbreeding dogs, you get the right genes. You can get a perfect creation. But it doesn't matter how perfect they are. It's not enough. When I raise subjects without their mothers, they become violent, aggressive, downright hateful. You should have been raised in a home with a family who loved you, not in a cold lab with doctors.
Look at Starlight for that.
I guess her mom did love her, to be fair.
Yeah. See, like a Starlight, her mother has loved her enough and, has believed, even though she's been more the pageant mom. I mean, Starlight still seems to be pretty even keeled.
Well, she also did have a religious upbringing. So there was some.
That does help.
Yeah.
I believe that its facts show that not even just Christianity, but just a religious upbringing in general helps, having some kind of
guidance. Faith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Homelander says, and yet I turned out great. The doctor scoffs. When I think what it's done to you and what you can now do to everyone else, I'm sorry.
He's right, too. The doc's right.
He is.
He's scared.
Homelander stands up saying, I don't want your apology. The doctor tells him, all this is my fault. Homelander asks, what do you want? What do you want? Forgiveness? Now? And he has tears in his eyes. He's feeling a lot of stuff right now.
Yeah, he does.
He continues, after you raised me like a lab rat? No. Too little, too late. This is the closest thing that Homelander had to a father. This doctor.
I think so. Because, like I said, in that flashback of that previous episode, you see that he was the only person that gave him even a little bit of attention. Yeah. Apparently, the other people were too busy studying with their clipboards, and he actually kind of tapped on the glass. Yeah. It's still not close, but something.
The doctor shakes his head, saying, I don't want anything from you, John. I'm just an old man thinking about his mistakes. Homelander says, I'm the world's greatest superhero. The doctor shakes his head and says, you're my greatest failure. And this is really bad. The power that a father figure has over somebody with a statement like this, I mean, you could crush somebody with saying something like that, Yeah,
you can.
It's a very hateful thing to say.
It really is.
And I'm amazed Homelander let him live.
Did he?
I seem to remember that he did.
Yeah, maybe he showed up in another episode. I think you're right. I think we find he's still alive.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that is, but what's funny, it's also this showing how selfish this doctor is too. I mean, the doctor, along with other people, are responsible for the Homelander being the way, and he's still not really even apologizing. He's feeling regret for what he has done, but not enough to express it truly to John / Homelander. Say, hey man, I'm sorry that I did that to you. He didn't even go that route.
Homelander's not even willing to accept his apology.
That's true. He's not.
Right. So maybe that's why he's not going down that road. Maybe
that could be
not asking for forgiveness.
It could be. Yeah. Good call.
Yeah. Huey is again calling Starlight and goes straight to voicemail. The group hears tires screeching outside. A number of black SUVs pull up outside the safe house. MM and Frenchie go into switch into gear real quick. They get some weapons and they're spreading them out to defend themselves. MM tries to hand Butcher a weapon. Butcher throws down his newspaper saying, hell, calm down. He gets up and walks out the front door. Little communication might have been nice to the team.
It would have been nice.
So they don't, there's kids there,
I just guess because it's one of the few times we'll see him be benevolent. So I guess we're supposed to overlook this.
Mm-hmm. MM and Frenchie look confused. Butcher shortly comes back in with Susan and her team. Butcher is telling everyone, easy lads. Susan greets MM and assures him his family will be okay. She gives him her word. He thanks her. MM walks up to Butcher and says, you called. You are a human after all. Butcher smiles and says, well, let's not get too carried away. MM thanks him. As Monique is being escorted out, MM tries to apologize to her. She tells him, I never want to see you again.
Ouch.
His daughter walks up and he gives her a hug. MM tells her he loves her and that she will be safe with her mom. I feel bad for her, man. This is an unstable situation, and she probably just wants her dad.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be really hard, especially if it's been thrown into any kind of turmoil and throwing up the schedule and moving to this place with these strangers. That's got to be hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't seen her say one word this whole show.
No, she's really together, man.
Yeah. Huey's dad gives him a hug. Huey tells him to take care of himself. I think in his dad's eyes, Huey has really grown up
very much
across this episode. Like, he's looking at him as a man now because he's standing up for himself.
Yeah, I think so.
Susan walks up to Butcher and holds out her hand. He again asks about Homelander, and she says, "No, Homelander. We had a deal. Everyone else is fair game. Do we have a deal or not?" Butcher hands over the compound V. Susan takes it and walks out. Starlight finally calls Huey back. He answers it and asks if she's okay. She tells him she has to see him. Huey tells her he doesn't think it's such a good idea. Starlight says, "You have to explain, Huey. You have to make this make sense. Just you and me. You owe me that much."
Yep.
We switch to Madeline, who's in the CIA building. She is meeting with Susan and some other members of the CIA. Madeline tells her, "Sorry, I'm afraid I'm not following." Susan tells her, "You and your corporation are unequivocally, unilaterally." How was that? Is that clear for you? I love it.
Oh, I do.
It's nice to see Vought on their back foot once again.
Oh, I know.
You're just once in general, like they've been on top of the game this whole time.
It's nice to see them stagger a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Madeline doesn't say anything. Susan continues. "For the last half century, you have been feeding the American people the line that your superheroes are chosen by God." She holds up a vial of Compound V. She goes on. "I mean, I get it. Jamming illegal drugs into babies' arms, that doesn't quite have the same ring. And that's not even the worst." She pushes forward a picture of Kamiko and asks, "What did you do to this one? And why?" Madeline says she's never seen her in her entire life. Susan says, "Uh-huh."
I have a quick question. I say quick. This could lead down too big of a road. I don't mean it this way. But all of these soups having been created, does this mean that, like, Starlight and all these kids were probably a property of Vought at one point? Maybe they decided and got smart and let a foster home raise, like, Starlight. Do you think that's really her mother? Or do you think it's one of these babies from the NICU? I'm curious.
With all the lies, it's hard to tell because allegedly the story goes that Starlight was born with her powers and she nearly blinded the doctor as she was being delivered. But
and I'm sure her mother has been telling her that all her life.
Exactly. We don't know.
Yeah.
It's all lies with this company.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious if I'm assuming that she was probably like one of those little kids, or like John, who is now Homelander, but the difference being the age gap is that we learned that we need some kind of controlling mechanism. So let them have families or something.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
I'm curious. Yeah. It's not really answered. It's not addressed. I don't think it's ever, maybe we'll address it. This new season starts. It's started. So maybe, I don't know if we'll ever address this stuff though.
Yeah. We'll find out.
That's for the Excruciating Detail podcast.
In 9 weeks, we'll get to or season 3.
Yeah, That's right.
Madeline asks what she wants. Susan says, "For starters, there are no superheroes in the U.S. Armed Forces." Madeline pushes back, saying the bill has already gone down to the floor. They're going to vote on it any day now. Susan tells her, "And you're pulling it. Retooling the concept for internal development, I don't give a but the deal is dead. And we're going to go back to status quo, where we're the government and the military, and you're just assholes running around in your capes."
Right. Now, and I do have a note here. This is one that I told you I'd bring something up from the comic book. I found this where I'd found this very interesting. We were talking about the law enforcement and their ability to enforce laws and other things like this. Butcher is explaining to Huey in the comic this thing called the casualty rate that is allowed for like tactical response units like our SWAT teams and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Our police are allotted, at least, I haven't dug deep to see if this is true. I'm just going, from what a lot of these guys kind of write, pretty statistically accurate for the most part, but it says that, there's a 20% casualty rate, meaning that if you lose 20% of the hostages in a given situation, you're good. That's still a good deal because you've rescued 80% of the people. The soups have a casualty rate of 60%.
Jeez.
So this is the reason why we can't have these people doing anything, because they're not trained. They don't do anything. They run into things and make things way worse, and 40% more 40% more fatal apparently when they show up. So
that's crazy, man.
So that's the big driving impetus behind not wanting these people, I think, in the military. Because can you imagine the civilian casualties on a battlefield and something like that when they're not objective based, just going willy nilly like it's Man of Steel, dude.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Cool.
Undisciplined, not trained to follow orders, really.
Yeah. Just knocking buildings down, killing thousands of people.
Madeline tries to play hardball, asking, and if we refuse? Susan says everything goes public. Corruption story of the century. Vought shares go to zero, the civil suits, criminal prosecution, and you go bankrupt. And your cute little suit goes to a lovely shade of orange for 15 to 30.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Susan, I like the way she's talking to her in this scene.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. She's got the upper hand here for now.
For the moment. For the moment.
Someone comes into the room handing Susan a note. Susan reads it.
It's not Trevor from Analytics, is it?
No, this is the CIA, dude.
Oh, that's
Trevor,
right.
Trevor works at Vought.
Vought, sorry.
You got to remember where your data people work. Come on.
Sorry. Sorry for my data peeps.
Susan reads it and then gets up, telling Madeline they're done. Madeline says, everything okay, I hope. She gets no response. Susan goes into a control room. She is briefed that 15 minutes ago, some Navy SEALs took out the individual responsible for planning the Flight 37 hijacking. She says, great, just as planned. What's the problem? She is told to wait. They fast forward the video. The SEALs are clearing the building, and a man not wearing a shirt calmly walks into the room. The SEALs surround him, telling him to get down. He does not comply. He faces the camera. There is a large tattoo across his chest. Susan asks what that says. She is told it says Nakib. The man then begins to glow from within. The SEALs start shooting at him. Then the entire building explodes. The camera shuts off. Susan is in shock. Then she's told to hold on. That's not all. There is a camera that is outside the building. The man walks out of the fire unharmed. Susan asks, how is that son of a still alive? She is told Nakib means captain. They believe it's his soup name. And she looks freaked out and she says, are you telling me they have a soup terrorist? Well, they had the upper hand for about 30 seconds there.
Yeah, yep, they did. So do you believe that Vought did this?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Me too. I'm pretty sure of that as well. I'm just curious. You think Black Noir did it?
I do not.
Probably just more babies. They probably got a group of doctors over there doing the same thing over in hospitals.
Probably just Samaritan's Embrace shipping this stuff all over the place.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, they're worldwide, right? They're giving people
They are worldwide.
A heated cooking area, a ventilated cooking area, and a laptop.
Their own laptop.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And their own laptop.
Mm-hmm. Starlight is waiting for Huey in Central Park in New York City. He sits down on the bench next to her and starts to try to explain what's going on. She stops him. She pointedly asks, did you kill Translucent? He says, it's not that simple.
It is not.
She's taken aback. And then she asks, and you haven't been using me to get back at A-Train? He doesn't answer her. And she really looks betrayed at this point.
Yes, she does.
She says, you're a murderer. Huey tells her, we didn't have a choice. She tells him there's always a choice and grabs his arm, and she's taking him to the police. She says they'll treat him better than the 7 would. He's trying to defend himself, trying to get her to listen to him. She stops perp walking him for a moment and tells him, you were the only thing, Huey. You were the only thing I could count on. Huey tells her, I'm still me, Annie. Please, you know me. She says, I don't know. You never did. He says, if you bring me in, I'm dead before sunrise.
You better believe he would be.
You think so?
I think so. Vought would get to that dude real quick, man. Wouldn't matter where he was. That's what Black Noir is for, I think. Sometimes. I'm curious. I think he's a wet work guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yep. We see that in season 2, I think. Yeah.
Yes, he's skilled. Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's skilled. I mean, we see him handle Kamiko pretty expertly.
Starlight tells him, no, Vought will want to string you up for a long trial. Lots of press, the guy who killed Translucent. He grabs her hand and says, this isn't about Translucent, okay? This is about Compound V. She says, Compound V? She questions him about it. He tells her, it's this drug. It gives the soups their powers. Vought will do anything to cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
She's shaking her head. She doesn't believe him. She says, what are you talking about? We're born like this. He says, I'm so sorry. A laser sight shows up on her chest. Huey tries to get her to move, but she's not fast enough. The bullet hits her center torso, throwing her back. It's Butcher. He's yelling at Huey, run, Huey. Starlight starts to get up, and Butcher puts another round in her, knocking her back to the ground. Huey again hasn't left, and he says, I'm so sorry. Butcher is yelling at Huey to get the away from her. Huey runs. Butcher yells at Huey, what the were you thinking coming here? Huey tells him he didn't ask for help. Butcher says, yeah, look like you had it all under control. Starlight is still in pain on the ground, but she looks like she'll be all right. She took those rounds like a champ, man.
Yeah, she did. I mean, those are 50 cals. That's what they were showing in that. I'm assuming it's the same gun they shot Translucent, but this goes to Translucent's question. I think maybe I'd already covered this earlier, but the impenetrable skin idea. You know, would it be like wearing a Kevlar vest? Would he still be hurt? Could you still hurt him? Like if you popped him in the skull with a 50 caliber bullet, could it give him a concussion? He's dead now, but you see where I'm getting at though. If someone, because Starlight's obviously kind of got she took a 50 caliber round with her own skin.
I'm not sure how this is happening with her. Like what's going on? Because I didn't see any blood.
No.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a 50 caliber though, because like on the 50 caliber sniper rifle, the muzzle brake is huge. It looks like a V shaped, and this was kind of a sleeker profile. I'm not sure what it is. It's just if it was a 50 caliber, she probably would have flown back far.
Okay, like that's true. I would think so. It would not get. I mean, at least not even if it didn't kill her. I mean, it would pick you up and throw you far back. I figured that much.
Yeah. Yeah, because when they do use those for sniping people, because normally the intent of that rifle is to shoot engines out on tanks or trucks or something like that. But they have...
That's what a 357's for on cars.
Is it?
It is.
Okay.
So a cop could step in front of his car running and put a bullet in the engine block, step out of the way.
Okay, interesting.
And so that's... I mean, I don't know if that's its main design, but it's strong enough to do it. Why you don't get a 357 for a house gun? Because you may shoot your neighbors.
Yeah, goes through the wall. Yeah. Okay, so on the topic of Translucent getting a concussion, I absolutely think that would potentially happen, because even though the outside is hard, the inside is soft, right?
Inside is soft, so
yes, the brain will still hit the wall of the skull.
Absolutely. That's what I was thinking too. So that could really mess that old boy. So they could have done more damage to him than they think. So he's not as invulnerable, I don't think, as that, he ain't invulnerable. Everybody, he's dead, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I have to wonder,
because this is not, we're going to have to answer this question for other people. I mean, think about it. I mean, obviously Homelander is impervious to, I don't know what that guy, I don't know what he can take. I don't know if he can take a nuke, but he can take rifle and handgun stuff. Don't seem to pester him at all.
Right.
Very much like Superman. So I guess if you can stop bullets on your eyeballs, you're pretty tough.
Yeah, I was really surprised that Starlight didn't get seriously hurt here with those bullets, because I didn't expect her to be able to take them like that.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked painful, but she took them and didn't kill her. Very good. Good show.
This episode was dense and had some rough stuff in it, man.
It does, and you better believe we're just gearing up for the finale next week of this season.
Yeah, and it is crazy.
It's going to be, it's a good finale. I remember that.
Yeah. So any final thoughts before we drop off here?
No, just really enjoy the discussion. As always, man, always really enjoy it.
Yeah, great job today. That's good.
Yeah, really good.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.